About that.
Call this meeting to order. It is Tuesday, November 2nd at 6 p.m. Can you hear me? No. That must be good. Now do you hear me?
City Manager Jackie Gorman.
Here.
City Attorney, sitting up for Scott Walker. Pearson,
Here.
all other staff,
Here.
and City Clerk Patricia Wright here.
Okay, if you will, it's time for the opening prayer and the pledge of allegiance by the mayor.
Lord, we come here tonight and give thanksgiving in our heart, Lord. We pray that you would just be with each and every one that is here tonight, Lord. We pray that you would just be with the police and fire and protect them in the performance of their duties. Be with our military men and women wherever they may be, and bring them back home safely, Lord. Lead, guide, and direct this council as they conduct the business of the city tonight, Lord. In a special prayer, we ask that you would be with the missionaries that was kidnapped over in Haiti, that you would just put your protective hand on them. For it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
6J. If I have your permission to move item 6J to under item 6A, so that group will not have to wait till the end of this meeting to discuss the lease. The other addition that I would like to make is to add second public participation after this. If so, I would entertain a motion for approval of the agenda with the one addition and the one change.
Make a motion, we approve the changes in the agenda from both sides so that it reads the way the president has read it out.
Thank you, Mr. Ross. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and I have a second. Do I have discussion from anyone? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. At this time, item 2 is public participation. This is your first opportunity of the evening to speak to something that is not on the agenda. If it's on the agenda, you need to wait till that agenda item. If it is not on the agenda and you have something you would like to discuss, you have 5 minutes. Mr. Goodman, if you will.
I need to go up there?
Yes, please. State your name and your city of residence. We would appreciate it, even though we know we would like it for the record.
You got to give us the password now.
Thank you, Madam President. I just had one thing that I would like the council to consider. For some time, we have this wonderful airport, but we don't have a sign that says it's there. I would appreciate it if at some point in the future, I take people by there and I said, we have an airport, it's a wonderful airport. You have to turn it Piper Club restaurant sign.
Did it fall down?
We have, the only signs,
There was a sign. Did it fall down?
There's no sign there now.
Okay, there's no
Thank you.
sign. It may have fallen down. Thank you, Mr. Goodman.
The only sign that's ever been out there is the county road sign that says airport that way.
Exactly.
And, Mr. Littman was looking at making a pretty large sign, a pretty large scale sign. The reason that it wasn't moved forward was the price, but we are looking into it, and we have plans to, put a sign out there outside of, the right of way for driving. And, it's coming. It's just gonna take a little time and a little bit of money.
Can we put the green one back up until then?
I believe that would be a county thing, but we can talk about it.
Well, the county made, I'm pretty sure, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure the county made them and we put them up. Anybody know if that's the case? There is one on the other side, right, as you approach from, the other one fell down, and I don't know where it is. at the moment. No.
I think people have hit them and taken them,
And taken them?
I believe.
Wonderful.
I mean, if they're not there anymore,
Okay.
one could safely assume. But I will talk to Jonathan about it.
Don,
Public Works will, get with the county on that.
thank you so much. Appreciate it, Mr. Goodman.
Do we know how much, sign costs, Bill?
I know how much the Welcome to Williston signs cost, but I have no idea what the,
Asking Mr. Siegel, does he know how much, sign would cost, because he said it would cost?
Yes, sir. The sign that Mr. Littman was initially looking at was a pretty large sign, if I remember right, upwards of $118,000. And, so that's kind of why it didn't move forward. But the sign in its entirety would also encompass the signs for Monterey Boats, and just about every business that went down. So that we wouldn't have to have 5 or 6 different little business signs right there at the corner. We would have one sign, and that would be for the entirety of the industrial complex.
and would people pay to put their sign on it?
That was the intent, yes, ma'am.
And whose property would you put it on, because we don't have any down there?
That was another issue.
Yeah. We're working on it. All right. Anybody else for public participation on a non-agenda item?
Yes, Glenn Lewis, Wilson. We're talking about the airport. What's the possibility on the weekends for people to fly the model planes out there? Is there any restriction? I mean, is the airport open on weekends?
Yes.
Yes, sir, the airport is open on weekends. As far as RC planes go,
Excuse me, Mr. Siegel, if you will address the council
Oh, sorry.
instead of the audience, I would appreciate
Oh,
it.
sorry, okay.
Yes.
Well,
I know
the
that.
audience
I-
is trying to-
I want him to answer, I will
Okay.
ask him to do that, but, so tell me what you're interested in, don't ask.
My interest is possibility where kids and grown-ups who do RC airplanes have a place to go fly them. I understand the airport is open on weekends, but if they can work with the tower or a controller saying, okay, we have planes coming in, stop flying your planes.
My comment is we have way too many planes for that. And we've had RC planes out there before, they were on the 41 side. And we had a club who actually paid a ground lease, who had, a group, they would meet every Saturday, sometimes even on Sundays. If you would like to add to that, Mr. Siegel, I would be glad for you to.
yes, ma'am, as far as, RC traffic is concerned, we do have a lot of traffic in the traffic pattern normally. To include the grass runway, we're seeing a lot more use of the grass runway since it's reopened, on both airplanes and powered parachutes. I do know there is an RC, quote-unquote airfield, if you will, off 464, headed towards Dunellen. If you head towards Dunellen, turn right and go down a little ways, there's an RC airport down there. But I would have to look into it and see what the actual specifications are for, RC airplanes into the city of an airfield.
Okay,
Thank you.
Mr. Witt?
On the same subject of the airport, whenever I'm driving over here from Bronson to, Wilson, I don't see an airport sign right there where that fancy blinking
Yep.
sign is over there. I don't see any kind of airport sign. Seems to me that would be the first place to go.
Donald, can you get one put there too? And it can be a small one there that just says airport with a plane on it, would be nice. The ones that were on the 121 where you turned in, they were large signs, probably about the size of the television up there. And the one, if you go to the other side of the airport and come back toward Williston, you'll see it's still there. I did notice that the other one had fallen down. I didn't realize that somebody had taken it. So, all right, that would be a great suggestion.
They have an absolutely beautiful airport
Yeah.
for a small town like this, it's amazing.
And people, you see airport signs everywhere that point toward the airport, so it would be nice to have one there. Excellent idea. Okay, any other non-agenda items? Okay, let's move then to item number 3, which is proclamation by the mayor.
German? Come on, dude. Come on. Come on, dude. Come on. Okay. Get up here too?
sir. All right. Well, we've had one or two complaints about up here at the hospital, where the grass has grown or whatever, and hasn't been cut, and since this thing's in federal court right now, it has been a problem. However, I understand that their fines have been issued, and there's not a whole lot that we can do about it. Well, with an exception here, we might be able to contract something out, or the utility department, we discussed it, might be able to keep it cut here in the future. However, in last year and this year, we had a couple of gentlemen that went out there and took it upon themselves and volunteered to do that. So, what I'd like to do, I'd like to read this proclamation recognizing Eddie Hodge and Jack Penny. Whereas Williston has served with citizens that take pride in our wonderful community and provide exceptional service to those who live and visit our city. Whereas the city of Williston recognizes the significance of local volunteerism and dedicated neighborhood service. Whereas volunteering one's time through actions helps to preserve and improve the quality of life for our citizens and our city. Whereas we are here today in recognition of action and service above and beyond the call of duty of Eddie Hodge and Jack Penny. Whereas Eddie Hodge in 2020 and Jack Penny in 2021 took it upon themselves to clean up the grounds in and around the hospital. Whereas Eddie Hodge and Jack Penny is an outstanding example of their volunteerism by providing the exceptional service. Now therefore, I, Jerry Robinson, Mayor, and on behalf of the Williston City Council, wish to express our sincere recognition with a big thank you to Eddie and Jack for their dedication and commitment to our city this November the 2nd, 2021.
And we all would like to chime in on that. We'll Terry, we appreciate you.
All right, thank y'all.
See the, awards, the certificate?
There you go.
You want him in the middle?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Mayor.
we want to know if they get pizza.
Do they get pizza?
That's so good.
Very good, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank
All right,
you,
thank
guys.
y'all. Thank y'all. We got it.
See you, Jack. See you, Bill.
Thank y'all.
Okay, item number 4 is the consent agenda. The only thing on the consent agenda today is the minutes of October 19th, city council meeting of October 19th. I'll entertain a motion for approval of the consent. Thank you. Thank you. Second. Motion and a second. Have any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, item number 6A is the Williston Community Animal Shelter presentation, which will be given by Mr. Terry Gavar. Welcome to your whole group that's here tonight. If you're with that group, please raise your hand so the council can see who you are. Thank you very much.
Where you at, Terry?
Williston RV Crossings, permanent residence Williston, so, thank you.
Thrilled to have you.
Madam President, Honorable Mayor Robinson, ladies and gentlemen of the council, I want to thank you for providing me the opportunity to come here tonight and being first on the agenda for that. It's always to get a fresh face up first, and we're going to do a slideshow presentation. But just to kind of go over a few things real quick is that, of course, you all know me as your deputy chief of the Williston Police Department, but tonight I'm here with the Williston Community Animal Shelter Board, which is a 501c3 non-for-profit. And I'm going to go through that a little bit at the end of where we want to go and maybe some expectations from where the council would like us to go. So tonight we're going to give you an update. We can go to the next slide, please. You should be seeing a slide of what's currently our Williston Animal Holding Center, and that's strictly what it is. It's a holding facility for animals that are somewhat either ungovernable or that have not been placed, and hopefully are placed in one of the current facilities that we have through Wayne Carson. So we we as a rule here do not keep, animals at this facility, and we only hold them there for a specific period of time. So the holding facility that we currently have, is really not adequate, for that, and, so kudos, to a group in 2016 that came together and, put together a roadmap of where they want to be and what they want to do, and maybe where we can go with the city, to build a new animal shelter. First meeting slide, 2016?
Yeah.
Okay. So that group that got together back in 2016, I was not here then. So, some of the members in the audience were, and I think maybe even some board members were on the board close around that time frame. But LEAF, which is Leaving Animal Friends, the City of Williston, the Williston Police Department, and as you know back then, Animal Control came under the authority of the Williston Police Department. The United States Department of Agriculture, the Williston Animal Group, which is WAG, the Williston Police Boosters, which is the Friends of the Williston Police Department, and for our friends, the Animal FATA, which is a group that Mr. Echoes started. He's here, and by all means, he may speak to you also tonight. Next slide, please. The topics of that meeting, according to the shelter, was identified at that time, that they anticipated the shelter would go down on airport property, or at least that was the site location that we would at least target for. And hopefully, if we end up there, Mr. Stiegel will put our sign up for free and save us some money. So we knew that the building wanted to be a block construction. We knew that it wanted to be climate controlled. We wanted it to be something that was state of the art. And I'm speaking we when I think of the group at that time. They knew they wanted to be something more than this outside holding center. You know, there's some information back then that the city of Williston was going to participate in some in-kind kind of things as far as workload goes, as far as sewer hookups and water and electricity. But that would involve our past department head for the Works Department, who is no longer with us. So I don't know, you'll see a question mark by that, so I don't know exactly what was promised at that time. The general discussion of the floor plan and the site obviously was picked. And a new building would need to facilitate the current city process of what we do with Wayne and provide an adoption process. That's what the hopes were for that group meeting. So 2016, as we move forward, before the incorporation of the Williston Community Animal Shelter, which is the board you have in front of you tonight, the original planning group had meetings, multiple meetings to talk about the shelters. The WCS building site location, as we talked about, was selected. The agriculture drawings, or architectural drawings, were requested from a sustainable design group, which is out of Gainesville. Funding from the United States Department of Agriculture was applied for, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit, more on that. The animal shelters were visited throughout the state. Maybe Wayne can talk about that, but I know they went and looked at the animal shelters, get an idea of what they wanted. Architectural renderings were delivered, and changes were made and resubmitted to the Sustainable Design Group for construction plans. So they were moving forward at the time, kind of figured out what they needed, where they wanted to go, and basically the design of the building. So we'll bring you up to the Williston Community Animal Shelter nonprofit timeline, and that is the group here tonight, right? So the lead in that group there that will put this whole thing together, if you don't know the lead, this gentleman by the name of Bob Levesque, who came in and said, talked to y'all before, talked to this body, and basically they were a wonderful organization, you know, but they were too decentralized to really move the process forward. And it needed to be a much smaller group to focus just on building the building and not focus on the peripherals of what I think they wanted at the time. So WCAS was created to formalize and centralize the efforts to build the shelter. That's what we were created for. WCAS was incorporated February the 13th of 2020. We were granted tax exemption status on May 15th of 2020. Now that's an important date to consider, right? Because really nothing that we could spend from that point backwards was tax exempt. And remember, that's the goal of the WCAS Incorporated, being a 501c3, was to be able to use that tax exemption the best we can. So, U.S. grant funding, we'll talk a little bit about that. So, we know we applied for USDA funding. When I got here, my predecessor, Clay Connolly, did a wonderful job for the police department, did a great job for seeking funding through the USDA and always being a good steward of the tax people's money, because that's what we should be. We should be good stewards as public servants of that money. The USDA grant works really great for cars, right, as we see, and we've learned over the years. It's a really easy process. We fill out the grant, we do some paperwork, I get the Honorable Mayor to sign a few things, I get the President of the Council signs a few things, Jackie signs a few things, we get the cars ordered, they come in, we give them a check, they give us our money back. Real simple process, right? Goes year to year to year. Building the building is a different story. You know, USDA, for as great as they are, everything they do, are really involved in the building project all throughout the process. The original design of the building, it was thought to cost around $300,000. Well, that number was substantially lower than what it really was. So when we realized that, we would have to resubmit the USDA funding. And the USDA funding works in a very particular way for buildings. They are last in, first out. In other words, we have to spend all of our money, and then they're going to tell you how much money you're going to get, right? And then they're going to take the last part of that money. And the actual funding itself, even though they said it could be up to $100,000, in reality, it could be $1, right? There were five other projects at the time were competing for this. The likelihood of us getting $100,000 was pretty remote, and that's something that we really didn't realize. The likelihood of getting a lot less money would have been what would have probably happened. So we made a decision as a group, thanks to the benefactor, Mr. Eccles, like I said, who's here tonight, would come in, and whatever money was not raised by the city, whatever money was not raised by charitable contributions, whatever money we did not raise by doing charitable events, you know, he would come in and pick up the rest, right? It's a very honorable thing to do, considering this building now, the real price of the building is about $470,000, okay? So that is a sizable commitment on behalf of Mr. Eccles and FOPTA and the Sterling Management Group. So we made a decision, the group did, that we would not seek USDA funding because some of the processes that they had would have been much more time consuming than we thought. And the letter was sent to them telling them we're not going to seek funding anymore. So we stepped back from the USDA and we went about trying to move forward with doing the building the building. So to give you an idea of what has been done since that time frame in 2020, the architectural building plans have been acquired, right? That was a pretty lengthy process, back and forth, changing them, getting them, changing them, back and forth, getting sealed bids. You know, a typical police officer, I'm not a construction guy. You know, when they said sealed bids, I thought these things were going to show up in a sealed container with tape on it, right? Which is what a cop thinks. But they have to be stamped, I guess, and that makes them sealed. And I guess it's stamped by the architects. And when you get those architectural technical drawings done and sealed, that's when you can start the permitting process. And you can't start it until then. So once we've got those, permits were acquired, land has been cleared, we've done soil testing, foundation dirt has been filled or delivered and filled, we've ordered windows for the building, trusses have been engineered, and the draining system inside and outside the kennels have been delivered, right? So it's a very, very, very unique building. So we'll go to the next slide, please. So Wilson Community Ownership, or WCAS Incorporated, hopes and expectations from the council. So here are some of the things that we're hoping, right, that we can do. WCAS is hopeful that after the Wilson Community Animal Shelter is built, the ownership and operation of Wilson Community Animal Shelter will be received by the city of Wilson. And that's been the plan the whole time. That once the building is built, and I'm assuming the certificate of occupancy is done, is that we will simply hand the keys over to you. And y'all, the city of Williston, will do the best you can based on the budget restraints that you have, which we clearly understand, okay? So we're hopeful that the animal shelter will one day be operated in such a way that adoptions will be done and that care can be done. And Wayne's done a lot of work dealing with the University of Florida and their Veterans for Veterinary program, where they'll come down if we build this building right and maybe do some teaching there and maybe do some free work on some animals and some cats, some dogs, and get them to the point that they can be donated. We know it's going to take time, right? So once again, we talk about being mindful of and understanding of what the budget restraints are for us. You know, I've probably, if you have not heard it, my group has probably heard it, or our group has heard me say 100 times, if I've said it 10 times, is that at the end, for at least the next couple of years, I end up with a very beautiful animal shelter that can shelter dogs and animals and cats in safety. And we cannot get to that part where we want to be, the adoption process and the taking care of them, that I would be more than happy to get to that part. And I think our group would be too, considering what we currently have now, and that we're using. So I think we've come here tonight, laid out what we believe has been the process before, or at least I think I have. We talked about where we've gone since that 2020 501c3 was received from us to the Wilson Community Animal Shelter Incorporated. You have some of our expectations of what we would like to see. I think clearly, once again, I'll reiterate the two things that we absolutely understand is that once the building is donated and turned over to the city, there's really nothing else, you know, for us to do other than maybe support in whatever process that y'all move forward with the building. So I come here tonight after done my little spill and maybe have see what the expectations are from the council. Or if you would like to speak to Mr. Eccles, I would suggest probably not Wayne, but if Mr. Eccles, you know, he would like to say something?
Oh, I'd be honored to.
Yes, sir, step up, please.
All right. Thank you, Terry.
Yes, sir, thank you.
I'll move that out here. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
So I'm Robert Eccles from the great city of Ocala, and I am the benefactor, as Terry flatteringly referred to me in his notes. So I just wanted to stand up here, take a minute, and thank you all from the bottom of my heart for your support and assistance in bringing this building to fruition. If I could take just 1 minute, I sure like to tell you why it's so important to me. So my foundation is called For Our Friends the Animals. That's taken from a prayer by the great humanitarian and animal lover, Dr. Albert Schweitzer. And it's predicated and based on Dr. Schweitzer's philosophy of a reverence for life. And a reverence for life is very simply the belief that all life has value and worth, and that our job as humans is to assist and protect and enhance the life of any creature that crosses our path to the maximum extent that we can. So my foundation has been involved in the past in trying to find means and ways of promoting a reverence for life throughout this county and Marion County as well. What makes me so happy, ladies and gentlemen, is that because this building is going to last for decades, and I am sure it is going to be a showplace for this region, if not all of Florida. Very frankly, you've given me a chance to literally reach across time and have a reverence for life play a role in the lives of animals that will come through this facility for the next 20, 30 or more years, and their lives are going to be so markedly improved from the lives that they currently lead. But what also thrills me is that this is a chance for a reverence for life to be taught as a philosophy to all the people, the students who will come, maybe volunteer, maybe even work there someday, serve as veterinarians, come adopt. So for decades, not only are you affording me, and I'm so thrilled, the chance to promote a reverence for life and assist the lives of animals, you're giving me a chance to leave a legacy behind and make sure that the kids, some of them are not even born yet, who will come to this facility will learn all about a reverence for life, and as the prayer says, to bestow the blessings of all of us on the merciful, to be merciful. So, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you truly from the bottom of my heart, and I say God bless you all. I really appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
And we thank you for choosing Lee County and for choosing Williston.
It is a pleasure. It's been a pleasure, and I love working with Wayne, by the way. It is a pleasure to work with this group. Thank you so much.
So, thank you, Mr. Echoes. So, if y'all have questions of us, or if you have any concerns with us, you know, obviously, we'd love to entertain those questions.
The only question I have right off the bat following your presentation are the Friends of the Williston Community Animal Shelter going to remain?
Well, and that's one thing that have to change too, it's not friends of the, that's one of the corrections we're going to have to make on the agenda item that we were gonna make tonight. It's the Williston Community Animal Shelter Incorporated, so it's WCAS. So when you talk about it, that one small minor change, and I've covered that, and I don't have to change that anywhere. So, yes, the goal is that the board, or WCAS, will remain intact and would stay around, and for hopefully people to donate money or services or whatever, you know, to the 501c3 to support the animal shelter and the animal shelter only. We've had a gentleman, Wayne could tell you all about it, and of course y'all know I love Wayne, I'm just kidding with him. So, but we had a gentleman donated land, a lot, that was actually sold, and that money went into. We had the gentleman that, I'm sorry, I cannot remember his name, but does the tiny houses. What's his name? Mr. Crandall had an event, and I think $5,000 went to the WCAS there. And we've got commitments throughout the community of other people that want to make donations. Obviously, $500 here, $1,000 there. You know, that will go into support this process, the Williston Community Animal Shelter itself. So yes, the board will be around. I know the lengthy version of what your question was, but I think you need to hear it.
That's good to hear.
Yes, ma'am.
That's wonderful. It's always good to have a support group that's built.
Yes, yes.
That's nice to hear. Anybody else have substantial or substantive questions for him?
You will bring in cats and dogs and so forth. Because earlier this year, which I was really kind of surprised by, when we had the one tropical storm we had, found a 6-week-old kitten.
Mm-hmm.
You could tell it was somebody's because it was caught. I called the sheriff's office and the police department. Said, where can I take it? We'll call WAG. WAG goes, we only do dogs.
Right.
Call Levy County to the animal shelter. Oh, you live in Williston, we can't do anything like that. And I'm like, okay, so nobody wants to do anything with cats.
Yes, we will, absolutely. As a matter of fact, we have architectural drawings, Mr. Cox, if you, afterwards, we'll get with you. We're gonna have a lovely cat room. So yes, we will be. And another one of the options of the shelter will be through times of hurricanes or distress, you know, or bad weather, we'll shelter animals and dogs and cats there. But yes, Wayne and them have designed a beautiful building that has a lovely cat room that we're hoping, yes, one day that it will be used for adoption purposes. So, and shelter, yeah. Mr. Mayor?
When are you gonna break ground, and when's it gonna be done?
Well, you know, we're working with several contractors right now, so as soon as we have a signed contract, which I'm hoping is pretty soon, we'll be able to start breaking ground. You know, the contract for this is very unique in the sense of we're trying to find a contractor that will do a fixed price building for us. In other words, the subcontractors, you know, his profit is not based on what the percentage that we pay a subcontractor. The idea of having the 501c3 is that we may get 3 quotes for plumbing, and if we have a contractor that gets a percentage of those quotes and he gets to select them, well, he's going to pick the plumber at $45,000 and not the plumber at $20,000 because he makes more money. So the ideal is to work with a contractor right now that will do a fixed price like $35,000, and then we pay all the subs and everything else. Mr. Goodman is on the board. Luckily, he's going to help supervise the building of the building. But right now, like I said, we're in the process of picking the right contractor for us, to do the job. You know, if we had $600,000 to build this building, then this really wouldn't be an issue, so they're watching every penny. And $470,000 is gonna be a beautiful building. We had to roll back a couple of Wayne's niceties, but, you know, it's still gonna be very, very beautiful, So I wish I could say tomorrow, but the reality is we're still waiting for the 2-3 contractors to give us a yes or no, which way they're gonna go.
Are you interested in talking to other contractors?
We're interested in talking to any contractor, be willing to do it for not a cost plus, or actually a cost plus, I guess, is what we call it. So not a fixed price, so not a percentage price over what the sub makes. And as long as we can select the sub that's best suited for us here, so.
Any other questions for them?
So we'll point out on your agenda packet for the lease, so I would suggest that whenever y'all do that, Jackie and I spoke about it a little bit, that we approve it, with suggested changes of removing the Friends of the Williston Community Animal Shelter, unless I'm speaking out of line here. I am not.
You're not.
Right, that it is the Williston Community Animal Shelter Incorporated. So if we can make those changes, if that is approved, that is. What's on your agenda item packet, there, yeah, several places, yeah. Also on your agenda item where it says the fiscal impact, it indicates that the lease, if we lease the lease back to us, there's been some discussion about this, it'd be, you know, at a under fair market value. Unfortunately, it says to you a fair market value, fair market rate, a fair market value rate. So obviously, the lease that we're working out with the airport is gonna be under fair market value.
Right.
So that's a little misleading for y'all there, so that needs to change also.
All right. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
And don't go anywhere, we'll move to the next item.
Yes, ma'am. Am I on the next line?
That was the next item. The lease.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
It
it
is
was
the next one. Okay, so at this time, there are no questions for them at this time. We're going to move item 6J as approved on the agenda change. And I'm gonna go ahead and read that. If I don't get the name right, correct me, please, sir. Item J is resolution 2021-77, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Williston, Florida, to enter into a land lease agreement with the Williston Community Animal Shelter, is that correct? Inc. For a 7.1 acre tract of land at the Williston Airport, as described in the land lease, repealing all resolutions in conflict and providing an effective date. This does have Mr. Benson Siegel's name there. Benson can add whatever he wants to add. You have the opposing person, so I will need both of you. We also have our vacant land lease agreement. It's called a vacant land lease agreement because it's just the land. There's no building on it. They're going to build the building. All right, any particular provision? As he said, we need to look at the fair market value area, the rent. Also, these terms, 10 years commencing so-and-so, that doesn't really apply when they're going to hand it to us. Neither does the amount of the monthly rent.
Madam President, if I may, the lease terms do kind of matter, in that when they do turn the building over to us, it would be very similar to a hangar exchanging hands. It would be an assignment of lease from Williston Community Animal Shelter to the City of Williston at that point.
Right.
So we do need to iron out the dates, or at least soft dates, for the full term of the lease, and we need to, you know, basically tack on the rent as well.
I see what you're saying, because it becomes our lease at that point.
Yes, ma'am.
But it still needs to be a lease with a long term.
Correct.
Got it. Okay.
So, Madam President, there are a couple of things about this lease that I want to address. To start with, the terms of the lease as far as the longevity, is gonna be an important thing for us to discuss, because while we have the utmost faith in the Williston Community Animal Shelter Incorporated to, follow through on everything, you know, we know that sometimes contractors can be a little wily, and that when you're building things, sometimes, you know, things don't work out. So, the importance of putting in on this lease exactly what circumstances need to occur before the city of Williston takes over, and exactly how long this lease is going to last for, WACS is gonna be an important thing for the council to discuss tonight. Especially because, you know, there could be a situation in which, you know, we just don't wanna open the city up to the possibility of there being a contractor that says, I'm gonna draw this out now, and now the, you know, the core organization is stuck, the city is stuck, and now everyone is just kind of sitting in a position where we're not able to do anything because we have this lease.
Okay, so what would you suggest?
So, our suggestion is to have an initial term of 10 years with 4-year extensions, or with 4 extensions of 10 years. The reason for that is that it kind of allows for a 50-year period with, obviously, assignments are allowed, but that allows us a certain amount of longevity to keep the property from, you know, having to do a new lease every single time that someone comes around, or that it changes hands, or whatever it is. So that is our suggestion as far as that goes. Then, in addition to that, hopefully we can iron out some terms for exactly what the council wants the situation to be when they take over the lease, right? Is it the building is built, and the minute the building is built, then we take it over, then we need to put that in the lease. If it's the minute the building is built and there has to be a certain amount of money allotted for the city to run the building, well, then that needs to be in the lease. So something about when exactly the organization is gonna turn over the use of the building to the city is gonna be important.
I can tell you what the city manager and I have talked about. Haven't talked to anybody else, obviously. She's the one I can talk to. What we talked about, was a 1-year lease for construction to be turned over at the time of the certificate of occupancy was issued. That's what we talked about. Which we thought was pretty cut and dry. That would give them 12 months to build. To go in at the end. Yeah.
Am I permitted?
Sure, I'm talking, the whole group can chime in if they want to, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, it's 1 year.
The only thing else I would like to add is we can always put in an ability for an extension, if needed, like a 6-month extension.
My question is a year enough?
That's what I'm trying to
Yeah.
get. Our own works, but the things that are presented to us years after we had planned this building. So I would submit to the council that in what's your last name? Kirsten, okay, I can't pronounce your first name either. Is 2 years for construction with a renewable clause in case some of these things come up, that have come up. And I'm not even going to go into the details because I have been admonished by someone I care deeply about that they don't really want to go into the weeds with me. So.
If it's completed before that, you definitely want to give it to us, though, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so.
The design of us
up
is
to
to
2 years.
help you.
Or at such time as certificate of occupancy.
My question is, if something comes up, we can amend this lease,
Oh,
can we not?
absolutely.
Okay, so, then we just wanna set the framework here and just manage it and monitor it, and if something comes up, we can always come back.
Absolutely.
Right, okay. Just
Thank you. Mr. Mayor.
Okay. If after it is built, get the CO, keys exchange hands, there's a problem with the building or the contractor, is that gonna be the city or is that gonna be the committee? Who's gonna take the responsibility for that?
Want me to address this?
Sure.
Okay.
You're the builder.
Yeah. There is a law in the state of Florida that a contractor is required to, be responsible for a building that he has built for 1 year. It is in the state law. There are no choices. Now, 5 years later, something happens, that's not covered under state law. But every contractor that signs their name, I am no longer a contractor. I have been seeking a lot more money. One of the difficulties is try to talk to a plumber and say, we want to pay for the pipes to get 7% discount. It's not an easy conversation. And I have had fairly good success at it so far. There have been a number of people that are interested. And the same thing, we had contractors that wanted 15 to 20% at a cost plus building. That would be $75,000 to $80,000 contractor fees. I have found 2 contractors that flat rate, regardless of what the building costs, they will be the contractor of record and provide all the necessary insurance to do this for $35,000. I was thrilled, absolutely thrilled. Yes, we would always talk to, I don't think we're gonna find many contractors like this. I have great expectations, once we get through these roadblocks, that this building is going to take off. But the roadblocks have to be defined first, and we have to make sure that we don't get started, Your Honor, and get halfway through and find out we have a crisis.
Sure.
And that has been my position and my job in this project up to now, because I have a little bit of experience in this industry, is to make sure that I find the crises before they happen instead of after they're here. Okay, thank you.
And if I may, we are trying to keep in front of all of it, staff is, with utilities, because there was nothing planned for this, at all. So Public Works has been trying to get in front of it, to understand how to get power to it, how to get water, sewer, all that, and did a great job. They got a generator on site already, but we're in plan review right now, so that if we can't get, then they have time to make adjustments to the plan. So, we're trying to stay on top of it, the staff to try and assist in moving this forward.
And I did speak with them this afternoon, they do have a plan.
Yep.
And like, as you said, the generator is already there. I would encourage anybody else who wants to speak to that to go to their office and speak to them about it as well. Okay, I saw Mrs. Robinson first.
Mr. Goodman answered.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Goodman. I have one follow-up question though, but after that time is handed over, and say there is a problem with the contractor, who is going to contact the contractor? Would that be the city, or?
Are you asking me, sir?
Or who, anybody that can answer your
I
question?
can answer that.
If the contract's with them, it will probably have to be them.
The contractor, by state law, is responsible. If you're asking me who is going to contact the contractor, that would be the owner's job.
That would be the city.
Whoever owns the building. If it is still us, because we haven't done the lease to turn it over, but we cannot act instead of the city, because we will not own the building. Now, I can tell you, words are easy, but I can tell you that my heart is in this building, and if there's something wrong with it and you come to me, I know the contractors, I would be more than happy to help, but I cannot act for the city.
We may need to put the city's name, I'll say it out loud, in the contract with the contractor.
No, ma'am.
No,
No, ma'am, because you will not own the building.
Well, if you have the contract with him, I don't know that he would help us within a year.
He has to by state law. He built the building.
Even if the contract.
Doesn't matter who owns the building, he is
I mean, I don't
responsible.
know what the state law says about that.
I'm telling you.
Okay. So, no
She's
matter,
more than welcome to research
so
it.
no matter who owns it at that time, he still has.
1 year from
he
the
has
date
to
of
become a
construction.
new owner.
Yes, ma'am.
I saw.
It's no different than like Tractor Supply, okay? They have a contractor that builds it, and then, of course, that's when they do their
Yeah,
sale.
they sell Tractor Supply to a new owner.
Right, but that contractor's still responsible for a year. And that kind of segues into, at some point, we'll all get together and talk about what this is gonna look like as far as the department. What department it falls under, so, and we'll probably do that as we get ready for budget, make a recommendation as to how it'll be managed.
That's another reason we like the 1 year.
Sure.
Because the budget could be put in the budget by October 1st of
I just, with the things that have come up recently, you know, I thought we would be breaking ground 2 months ago. I had hopes of breaking ground 2 months ago. Things happen beyond our control.
And inclement weather even will take it a month or 6 weeks out, so.
So, just one question, on the lease, or under item number 15, talks about insurance. I'm not sure where that comes into play, or at what point, is this something that WCAS is gonna be responsible for, or, that's the insurance, or does it not apply to the buildings bill? I just had some concerns with that.
If I'm not mistaken, and Mr. Goodman can correct me if I'm wrong, but you would need the insurance while the building is being built, but then after it is turned over to the city would be responsible for the insurance.
I have checked already for builder's risk insurance.
Right.
My agreement with both the contractors that are representing us is that we will pay for the builder's risk, and our WCAS's name, Williston Community Animal Shelter. Turns out insurance companies don't like acronyms. So our name will be on as the insured for builder's risk insurance before we actually start physical construction.
So I'm assuming then that would cover the $1 million in liability coverage? That was my only concern.
Yes.
During construction, that's
Right,
the way
during
I would
construction
use
is
the builder's risk.
the animal shelter, they're contracting,
Mhm.
so it's under them, it's their liability.
Right. For the builder's risk.
Right,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And then it will be
He's questioning the dollar amount there?
1 million.
Yeah, he's questioning the dollar amount.
That amount of coverage, is that something that everybody carries out there? I'm assuming it's fairly cheap?
Sometimes more.
That's been our standard practice in our leases.
Different insurance.
But it's generally, aimed at aircraft hangars and, dealing with aircraft. It's just a standard clause that's included in every one of our leases. So I don't know how it would pertain to this specific topic, or if we need to amend that section based on the requirements.
That's my only concern, is we're cutting the construction's building costs, if they're so close, that if we have to carry $10,000 worth of insurance a month, then that's gonna, cause I don't know what it is, and that just popped up at me and I saw
If
it.
you will, let me ask Ms. Jones back there if she has any idea of how much builder's risk is. You have any idea from dealing with your contractors?
I can tell you it's not $10,000 a month.
I didn't think.
What'd you say?
It shouldn't be $10,000 a month for a project, a $500,000 project. So I don't think it will be a huge expense. Usually builder's risk will be a couple $100 a month.
Yeah, I would think so. And if it's more than that, if it's absorbent, I can't say the word.
It typically depends on
If
the.
it's too high, come back and tell us that it's too high.
And maybe we can,
We'll consider it.
I like
Depends on the
that.
And
Very
it
good.
usually includes liability too.
Yeah.
I like the idea that we can come back and talk to the board if it's much too high. So,
The contractors will have their own liability insurance. It will cover the liability. The builder's risk policies are for vandalism, fire, theft, those type of things, protection of your investment. That's what builder's risk is. Builders are risking. This insurance is not prohibitive because its sole purpose is to protect the builder while construction is going on from things that might destroy his investment.
Will the contractor, name, Wilson Community Animal Shelter?
Yes, sir.
As an additional insured?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I asked that question.
We can kind of work it out from there and see if that's gonna fall within the parameters of their, you know, construction insurance requirements, and if it falls within the purview of our insurance requirements, then we're all good. If not, you know, like we said, we can come back and revisit it if required.
Exactly. If it's too much, let us know.
Good.
Okay, you're sitting here back on.
Okay, back on. The other thing that, I discussed with Scott at the office was that, I heard that there are architectural plans, that there are, you know, specifications for what this building looks like. That all seems to be ironed out pretty well. We should include that in the lease, as an attachment or something, but, you know, just in case, we want that protection for you, in case the contractor says, no, this isn't what, you know, you wanted us to do, and then that protection for the city as well, to say, this is what we expect to be built on this property, and this is what this lease is
Well,
for.
if the architectural plans are already in the utility department.
There, okay.
Yeah.
Well, they've been submitted for building.
Right, yeah, they've already been issued.
Yeah, the
permits.
city has the building permit, which means you have the
You can
plan.
make reference to that, right?
I looked at them this separate.
Without attaching everything?
May I?
Hold on a second, let's talk about this first.
Right, our office just didn't receive anything like that, and so we weren't able to put it into the lease. Some reference to the plans wherever they are, they don't have to be attached if we can reference them specifically, you know, but just some reference to it in the lease.
Yeah. It would be nice if you look this over, it says, where are the plans? We would like pictures as well. Some sort of rendering.
I've seen that in something that they gave.
Well, we.
And they're hanging the whole big plan sheet from the utility department.
Somebody draw out something.
That's somewhere.
We have both architectural plans plus some renderings that we can give you, from the Sustainable Design Group, so that's no issue. I can get with each individual one, show it to you.
And may I request, if we can get a good rendering of that and have Matt enlarge it and put it on a board to put it out in our lobby,
Absolutely.
it would be a great thing for everybody to see and donate. Yeah, we can get donations. As a suggestion, we like to show off what we're trying to do out there, and that would be a really good thing, is to have that rendering, if you get an opportunity.
Absolutely. I'll contact each of you individually and sit down with you if you'd like to look at it and show it to you, and, absolutely, it's very reasonable to take a look at what the building is, so.
They put a lot of thought into it.
Yeah.
Exactly what they want, and how to make it best for them.
Ms. Jones, you said that you had a.
What I have is fairly old, it's not the actual, it's actual drawings, it's not the actual architectural drawings.
Well, does it come close to what?
No. I mean, yes, it has stalls, yes, it's close.
That's the most important one.
Yeah. So,
If we could get copies of that, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah, even if they could just have that.
Yeah.
I'll leave this with Patricia, she can make copies. It shows the camera, that's how I did it with
The camera.
Yeah.
I know, what,
Yeah.
2 years ago, was it 2 years, Mr. Goodman, 2 years ago, we
Yes,
went
ma'am.
through it.
Right.
And I was looking for mine, I found all the minutes and everything else, but I couldn't find that. Thank you.
No, I'm asking to address the council about this issue,
Just cut that down.
because I want the council fully informed. There are some things on the architectural plans that I am changing, and I'm going to give you a simple statement. On the outside of this building, for decoration, the architect, as architects will do, spent a whole bunch of money on decorative blocks. Thousands and thousands of dollars of thin little blocks pasted to the outside of the building, which was driving up our cost $4,000 or $5,000. Little blocks after everything is built around the bottom of the columns, and I said, look, this is the way we're gonna do this. We're gonna build our building we're gonna get it constructed. If at the end, we've got thousands and thousands of dollars we can put those blocks on then.
Decorate later.
Okay? So when you're looking at architectural renderings, and the only reason I'm bringing this up is bear in mind, cosmetics are not the structure. And we are going to make it as beautiful as we can, but our main purpose is the structure. And to get a good, sound, functioning structure that does the job that it's intended to do. And then we will do all the little pretty things that we can.
That was nice.
Okay, thank you. Kirsten, you got some more?
I think just one more thing. As far as the rent, so in paragraph 3.
I knew you were gonna get there.
Yes, I got there. So as I was reading over it, the second sentence, the one that starts the rent for the initial and any renewal, all the way to the end where it says labor statistics, we're gonna take that out. I missed that, and that's not applicable to this lease, and I apologize for that. As far as the first sentence, we normally have some amount of rent that's due, even if it's, very, very minuscule, because it allows us to get around, and when you have contracts, you have to have consideration. And so the consideration for this is obviously the building, but in the happenstance of, maybe the contractor falls through and, the apocalypse, right? We don't want that to happen. So then we don't want to have to go back and say, well, now they have to pay fair market value for whatever. We agree to $12 for a year.
Right, $1 a month.
Right.
And we'll each donate $1.
I'm gonna pay the first year. I've already volunteered the first year.
Okay. Everybody in agreement with that?
Renee,
We move forward.
I'm taking it tonight.
Anything else?
I think that's it.
You're good. All right, anything from the group? Have you seen this lease? I know you did, I contacted when first got it. So, anything else that you'd like to address?
Terry's covered it all. I believe Terry has covered it all, or mine.
I'm good.
Good? All right, so, at this time, we have resolution, resolution 2021-77.
I'll turn your mics on, we can't hear you.
My mic is on.
I guess your battery's dead.
Probably need some battery.
That's it, all I got.
And it's on. Okay, it's, resolution 2021-77 that I've already read into the record, and as we have discussed, at this point, I would entertain a motion for approval with the changes that we have made tonight, as discussed by the attorney. Everybody feel comfortable with that?
I do. I move that we approve resolution number 2021-77 with amendment.
You turned it off.
Thank you. I have a motion, do I have a second? I have a motion and a second, do I have any further discussion from anyone in the room? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, so we will get the lease amended, and we will get it back to the group for signature.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your time and dedication to that. And to both of us. Did I skip old business altogether? Well, because you're hurry to get y'all on there. All right, so we're gonna back up to number 5, which evidently I skipped. And what that is, it's our city manager's report and our staff update.
Thank you. I don't have a lot to to report out, but I have a big one to report out now. John Henry Park is about 2 weeks away from construction. I know y'all don't believe it, but it is going to happen. So, we just got word from, Wright Pierce. All permits are in place, everybody's gearing up, they're coordinating right now, Public Works for their part. Because as you know, we're involved a little bit in some of that construction, so, it's a happening. So once that project gets completed, and I'll get a better timeline, I've asked them to revise that for us. Cause we're gonna start monitoring it, cause tonight you're gonna see the master plan of Cornelius Williams. Then we're starting to work on that master plan for when that project's done, we can start working on our splash park. So that's exciting, we've waited for this for decades to get this work done. So it's actually happening, and I'm just, I'll get you revised as soon as they get it to me. Okay. That's really all I have at this point.
Okay, so, any other staff updates? You gentlemen in class. You have another opportunity at the end. Kirsten, you have anything? You're really good at it, like you might.
Actually, I do have one more thing. You're not gonna see this, because it's fallen in between meetings, but on November 10th, we're doing that legislative appropriation request. I'm working with Brooke and Chief Spiegel, our fire chief, on trying to get that prepared. Brooke's done some work on it, Lamar's done work on it, I got it, we're still getting comments and tightening it up, and it's due the 10th. So I'll get copies to you when we send it out. As you know, it's kind of patterned after the same one that we made with Congressman Dunn, who we really had faith that was gonna go through, and, we did not make second round that we know of. So we're gonna go on with the legislative appropriation for our firehouse, and, it's gonna be our public safety complex, or center. And I'll copy you when I'm done, but just, we couldn't get it done for this meeting, just so you know, it's coming.
Okay, oh, Mr. Barber.
Public Works did want to report on one thing. We had 4 new employees start 2 weeks ago, and then this Monday we had another 7. So just wanted to let you know they're in the process of being trained, and we're hoping by the first of the year people can really see the difference with the staffing levels and the projects and the things that will be done. Hopefully the citizens can see the real change, so we wanted to thank the council for that and let you know we have moved forward with it.
All trees and cards look great, by the way. Yes. I know. Mr. Ross, you have anything?
I had mentioned to Benton about the road that leads from 121 up to the airport, and I was curious as to whose duty it is to maintain it. There's a big hole right in the middle of the road.
It's on our side. Yeah, that hole is on our side. The first part of the road is county, the last part of the road up next to the airport is the city, and the hole is in the city part.
Well, it needs to be fixed.
Mr. Barber, take a look at that.
Benton will get out.
It needs some asphalt. Thank you. Councilmember Hines, you have anything? Mayor? Councilmember Rhodes? Councilmember Cox? Here?
I do actually have something, yes. Today I got an email from Wayne, and I would like to just thank Wayne and Laura for all of their work on the Flournoy property. It is finally in compliance. And I have with me the first installment of Mr. Flournoy's payments, so it seems like, everything will be going good, and we'll have our wrapping up of the foreclosure case, and everything should be good.
Perfect.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you both of your hard work. Mr. Steve?
Ms. Jones, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention, we're also starting the Assistance to Firefighter Grant Program. That will be the grant that would go toward the extrication equipment if we're awarded that. We have to have that completed by December 15th. So that opens next week, and we'll be working on that grant also.
Okay.
I just got a question for the mayor. Are we gonna move ahead with the student of the month?
Round two. All right, so now we're moving back to item number 6B, which which is resolution 2021-71, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Williston, Florida, approving the 2022 general municipal election date and process, and to establish an effective date. City Clerk, right.
This resolution is to set the date for our general election, which will be in March of 2022, March the 1st, the City of Williston general election for council members and mayor.
March 1st is the Tuesday.
Yes, ma'am. And the following seats are up: the mayor seat, Group D, and Group E.
Alright, so we have a resolution to establish the effective election date, and I don't know about the process. The same process.
Same process, yes, ma'am.
Can I ask who's B and who's D?
That would be Councilmember Hines and Councilmember Jones.
And which is which?
I think,
Councilmember Hines is D, Councilmember Jones is E.
Alright, so we have, would entertain a motion for approval of the resolution, 2021-71.
I make a motion that we approve resolution 2021-7.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Do I have any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Resolution 2021-72 is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Williston, Florida, appointing the canvassing board for the 2022 general municipal election and establishing an effective date. Ms. Wright.
Madam President, this resolution is to appoint our canvassing board, which includes City Manager Jackie Gorman, Police Chief Dennis Stroh, Commissioner Matt Brooks, and resident Reggie Williams, and they all have agreed to be on the board again.
And the resolution names them by position, not by name, other than Mr. Williams.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, any questions for the city clerk? If not, I know. Okay, I agree, it's getting shivering time in here. Okay, all right, I would entertain a motion for resolution 2021-72. Thanks, ma'am. Do I have a second?
A second.
Have a motion and a second. Have any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Look at the vote. All right, next one is resolution 2021-73, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Williston, Florida, to approve an amendment to the Public Transportation Grant Agreement, FDOT project number 431258-1-94-22 of the Williston Municipal Airport for design and rehab of the general aviation transient, still not working? Transient apron and construction taxiway H connection. Amendment 3 for execution. Mr. Steele.
Yes, ma'am. So very happy to bring this amendment before the council. FDOT awarded us an additional $209,000 to actually construct the taxiway connector from the transient apron to taxiway Delta 1, which services the T-hangars. So basically it would make it to where the T-hangars don't have to drive all the way around their elbow to get to the fuel pumps after hours. They could drive, right up front and, not have to worry about hot starts or anything like that. So it's a very short trip for them, and this amendment allows for that construction.
Works out. Okay. Anybody have any questions? Everybody understand what this is? Okay, where the T hangers are, that taxiway right there, and there's also where the fuel farm is, where the tank sits. There is no connection between there and where you park the planes up front next to the volcano. They're having to taxi all the way around to get to the fuel farm, I mean, to where the pump is, or to taxi out, for that matter. So this will, that we've talked about it for, I don't know, probably 10 or 15 years. So I'm thrilled to see that they agree that we need more money to get it done. Any questions for Mr. Stegall? Entertain a motion for approval of resolution 2021-73.
I make a motion that we approve resolution 2021-73.
Have a motion and a second from Ms. Hines. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Discussion with possible action, request for yard waste collection schedule change. And this one's under Ms. Gorman's name.
Since, we've been under contract with GFL, they've been struggling again with, like everybody, trying to get help, and, we know that I get a lot of calls saying, why haven't they been mighty in my yard waste? So, they've been picking them up on Fridays, and I said, look, if you're gonna keep it up, you need to make it official. So, Renee has, I gotta tell you this, since this contract has been in place, she has worked tirelessly in trying to get addresses and commercial dumpster sizes, and it's been a ride. So she has really helped improve. Even though complaints go to GFL, and we're trying to wean them off of us to not call here, but they still call us. And we get a lot of complaints about this yard waste. So I just asked them to make it official. So they sent a letter. We did check the contract, and it does not require amendment. I thought it would have first. They're just saying, if you don't mind, can we do it, can we change it to Friday? And I said, first I'll go to council, and if they're fine with it, it's up to you to make sure our citizens understand that that's a permanent
Right,
thing.
they need to notify them.
That's correct.
We can put it on our bill, on our electric bill.
Yeah, I mean, we can put stuff out there and try, but it's up to them to also get word out that their schedule changed.
Okay.
Okay?
Everybody okay with that? A consensus? All right, is this the item you're addressing? Okay.
Bob Lewis, City of Williston. The Friday pickup, a lot of us do our yard work on weekends. And the stuff out there usually on Sunday afternoons or even Monday mornings. And then we tend to sit out there for the rest of the week to be picked up. And in a way, that's an eyesore. Also, they haven't picked up the past 4 weeks, and that's another thing that bothers me. We came back to the old fold of what we had with the other company. I know they have problems with people, like everybody else does. But maybe if it's on a Monday, they can then redirect the people to a Monday pickup instead of a Friday.
But they don't come to Williston on Monday. They don't come at all on Monday. Right now, they're trying to come Wednesday and Friday, and the Wednesday's not working, so they wanna do it all on Friday. The way I understand it. And I realize, yes, it would sit there. Just find a corner of your lot. That's what we've done. Find a corner, so that it's out of the way. And in our neighborhood, we put it all together in the same spot. I don't know if that's a good idea, but there are multiple people who put it in the same pile.
Are we allowed to do that if we have neighbors who want to
If you get too much in one spot, they'll charge the person an extra amount.
How do they do that?
But that's only if it's a lot overage.
How do they consider overage?
It's in the contract, that if it's over, I think it's 2 bins, it's 2 bins, Renee?
No, it's 4 square yards.
4 square yards.
And the problem you
Thank
have if you do multiple households, they look up here as if you're putting out too much, and they may not pick up even a portion of it depending on what you've left.
Well, we don't put out a lot.
Yeah.
Because we do it regularly. We don't, do a whole lot at one time.
to do regularly, and we all stick it on the same corner.
Mm.
And between houses on the corner, so it doesn't impact everybody's yard.
And if I may, did I hear you say they missed you
Yes,
for the last couple did you call their number to report that?
I did not call them, but I did make a message with you on that.
Did you make note of that? But they do have, they do have their own number you can call, just so you know, but we'll get the message to them.
Yeah.
Maybe if you publicize the number on on your Facebook page or something a bit more,
Yes.
to help direct in that direction.
We're happy to help with that, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Okay, item F is discussion with possible action, Cornelius Williams Park Master Plan. This is under Ms. Jones' purview.
Oh, I need to pass this out, thank you.
Good evening, council. The topic for this is Cornelius Williams Park Master Plan. Cornelius Williams Park, located at 21,000 Northeast 40th Street in Williston, Florida, was purchased by the city of Williston in 2004 to add green and recreational space to the city. The last 16 years have gone by fast, and the park has become a central and essential area utilized by soccer teams, softball teams, basketball teams, and residents. This master plan should be used as a guide to pave a path forward for improvements at the park. The Friends of Cornelius Williams Park has been formed as a not-for-profit, but they're not quite there yet, from citizens who will assist the City of Williston's Parks Department to meet the goals in the master plan. The master plan is large. We have gone through it with planning and zoning twice, and I do have some comments that were sent to me after the agenda went out. But the purpose of this, and the reason we want to push Cornelius Williams first, is because we have a lot of donations sitting and waiting. And the Parks Department isn't really sure what they can and cannot put out there if it's not on a plan. And the plan is going to guide the Parks Department, and it's going to guide our donators on what the process will be and what the most important steps are. So in the master plan, you'll see there are phases, and what we have deemed most important and things that we think need to go first, and typically that has to do with accessibility and safety. The next steps would be improvements, and those phases may move around a little bit if we get a great donation or if we get a good grant and we can move something up. But accessibility and safety and use of the park are our most important goals right now. I would love to read this entire plan to you because I probably have it memorized. But I'm not going to bore everybody else with that. But if you have questions for me, we have some of our Friends of Cornelius Williams Park here. We also have our Parks Department guy here. So if you have any questions for us.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Jones.
Also, with our site plan, once this is finalized and we've decided exactly what we're going to do, we're going to give this to Steve McMillan to do on a CAD drawing. I can't do CAD, but this was just done so that you can see what direction we're heading.
Okay. All right, so I don't know where y'all might want to start. Thank you for the plan. I appreciate that, having that. I have seen a small version, but the sign's kind of a big one.
If I may just add a couple of comments before you begin. It's important that we master plan all of our parks, because that is our roadmap for budgeting every year, for us to make sure that we're meeting our state requirements and our comprehensive plan. It helps citizen input when we master plan to make sure that our parks are meeting all the needs of our people. That's why I mentioned this first, mainly because we've had a lot of contributions for items out at that park that became chaotic, and that's what kind of started this whole role of Cornelius going first, let's get that master plan in place and approved. And another thing about a master plan is, once it goes through planning, goes through council, and everybody's had their input, you can't just change it without going back through the process, and that keeps order. It helps us look forward for if a grant comes through, say for example, for pavilions. We know we have one on there that says we want a pavilion here, but we won't fine tune that until we know there's money. And then we'll come and say, all right, here's 10 of them, what do you want it to look like? This is just like a roadmap that says, we'd like some benches, and we'd like a pavilion, we'd like a bathroom, and we'd like this, but it doesn't get actually detailed until the financing is in place. But this helps us start looking for that. And then when we see a potential for funding, that allows Laura and her staff to be able to come forward and say, we have an opportunity to get this paid for. So it helps us with our budgeting and understand our maintenance as we go forward too, because the more we grow, the more people it takes to take care of this stuff. You want to talk about, if you have pavilions, how you want to rent the facilities if possible. But also keep in mind, as your parks grow and they become busier, you have less vandalism to your parks because people want to be there recreating. And so what happens is, we've got industry standards we can follow that helps us with, like, the bathrooms, for example. I've been through this with a couple communities already where we have problems with it. And there's products out there that will allow us to automatic lock at sundown, and they come and they unlock at sunrise. So it's really a great thing. There's stuff out there that's tried and true. We don't want to reinvent it ourselves. So we want to put good product, things that's going to last, but the most important thing is to get the kids active and make it a destination for people to go and recreate. We want to do that with each and every one of our parks. So we start with this one, and then I mentioned earlier we're going to do John Henry Splash Park next. Well, you'll be seeing that. So we'll be able to take this, and all department heads will be involved in watching this, watching for grants. We had SPAR has already donated for post and cable to go around the parking lot. So before we make that happen, we'll survey that area, make sure that the parking spaces are in code. So what you're seeing is nothing's to scale, it's just where it's going to be located. So when we go and we actually do that project, which you'll see in the next few months, we'll actually we'll zoom in and we'll do an actual drawing of it to scale.
Question. Okay. So I think the bleachers and concession stand are all on one side of the park. If somebody's playing baseball, where are they gonna sit? Have you guys thought about that or looked at that? Or will they have to sit on one side of the park and try to jump it?
I think they put them where they asked for them. No?
The baseball both have a structure for seating and dugout.
For the players, what about?
No, benches, bleachers, and dugout, so basically that kind of structure. Yeah, that'll look like a little bit down for the dugout for the players, and then behind them will be the.
Yeah, with bleachers and the dugout. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Is that correct?
Where's the existing restroom?
The little triangle in the middle.
I wish you here what existed already.
I have the restrooms.
The W triangle?
It's a green triangle in the middle. It says restrooms. Those are the existing restrooms.
Those are the ones that are already there.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, there it is.
Where is in the thing it said, about Splash Park? Where's the Splash Park in there?
Yes, sir. In our original go-around with planning and zoning, Friends of Cornelius Williams Park requested a splash park. After they reviewed it and they went back and decided what they really wanted to do with the park, they decided they did not want a splash park. So that'll be going in at John Henry.
So where I see there are no bleachers are at the basketball court. And you might at least walk one on each side.
Yes, ma'am, that's a good idea.
You know, just a little one, doesn't have to be things gigantic.
Why 2 basketball courts?
2 basketball courts were requested by Friends of Cornelius Williams.
I know I've gone out there and shot some baskets and whatnot, and I've gone out there several times, and I rarely see anybody on the one.
Yes, sir, but we do hope to change that. We hope that we have a lot of people out there and they're fighting over those courts.
There's already one there. Is it a half court that's there, or is it a full court?
No, it's full court.
It's a full court, but it's also difficult to have any kind of tournament with just one court. So perhaps that's why it's being underutilized.
Okay, so which one is the current one? The one that's out farther, or the one that's closer to the parking lot?
The one that's closer to the parking lot.
The current one. I really do wish we could mark the ones that are currently there.
Yes, ma'am, I can change that for you.
Well, just, just for me.
Yes, ma'am.
Considerably. But you've added, and when it says post and wire fence, it's not really wire, right? It's cable?
It's cable.
Okay. That's what I thought, but it says fence on here. Post and wire fence.
It's I was told it was called post and
We'll
wire,
change
but it's
it. We'll change
post and cable.
I'm not really sure. I'm just asking which one it really is.
It's cable.
It's cable, it's wrapped in a protective little plastic coating.
Right, that's what I thought. So maybe it needs to say that instead of fence.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm gonna.
Council, one of the improvements I want to discuss with you is lighting. Now, we know that when the time changes, it gets dark earlier. We know the kids like to go out to this park. And I know our code says it closes at sunset. It's possible that we can have certain times for different parks depending on what activities happen out there. We know that sometimes there's night games. I don't know if this is something you want to entertain. I don't, because if we're gonna have lights, are they gonna be security? Are they to allow events to take place at night with our sports? Like our basketball court or football. I didn't know what the intent was. Was it just for security lighting at night, Ms. Athleen, or was it meant for lighting at one of these facilities for late games?
I was hoping for both. They're hoping to be able to utilize it more to where activities can take place out there at that time.
If I'm not mistaken, there's different types of lights depending on what you're
Right,
doing.
because we were talking solar lights, but we were talking lights we can use for security as well as events that may start happening out there.
Because at one time, somebody was wanting to donate some lights, and I needed to make sure we understood what the proposed use was.
Are there any lights currently there?
There's 2.
I mean, where on here are they?
They're probably,
Not on here?
yeah, they would be taken down and changed, so they didn't make it to the plan.
Closer to the existing restroom.
Yeah, I think they're
One in the basketball court and one in the restroom.
That's where the electric is.
And there's no light showing here by the basketball courts?
We can add lights by the basketball court.
There's a solar light there, according to the.
Yeah, that thing like that is a solar light.
So you would rather have stadium lights at the basketball courts?
I can tell you that, and I don't know, the group is different. And I know it's different in the park that's in my neighborhood. I like my park closing at dusk, because it's in a neighborhood, and there are people in it that don't need to be there after dark. But it's a totally different type of park out there. It's not exactly in a neighborhood, it backs up to a neighborhood, but it's not really what I call in a neighborhood like the one near me is, because it's surrounded by neighborhood. I'm fine with parks opening at dawn and closing at dusk. I know I've had this conversation with a couple of you. If there's a special event that needs to be longer, I'm fine with coming and saying, we need to have the lights on, or need to have lights, and we can take spotlights out there if we need to, which we take other places. And that's just the way I feel. I don't know how anybody else feels. I like all parks opening at dawn and closing at dusk. Because I think, unless there's something going on, there's no reason for anybody to be there at night.
I
Yes.
have to agree with that.
Unless there's an event.
Yes, ma'am. We do want it to close at dusk. However, when you have a sports competition going on, whether it's baseball or soccer or basketball, they will not just stop the game at dusk. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that that this park is being used for it is a sports complex in our comp plan, and we want it to be used for that. So we do want to have the lights available to them, but maybe we could downsize some of the, maybe we wouldn't need as many lights if it was just for those kinds of events. But we don't want to kick any of our sports people out when it gets dark at 6 o'clock, in
I mean,
December.
most of the people that I see out there are there in the daytime.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
mean, I realize that's because it's no lights and it's dark. But they're weekend leagues, the ones I'm seeing are playing on the weekends.
Yes. And this is such a large park, and we really do have some big dreams for it. We hope that there are events in the evenings that they would have a special event permit for with lights. Yes, sir, Stephen?
Ms. Jones, when I was growing up in town, I know that there were several basketball courts that we used to play on. One of them used to be, right over there at the high school that was turned into a parking lot. But Wade Bullock actually built a basketball court in his backyard. And the youth would go out there I think it was Tuesdays and Thursdays, we would go out there from 6 to 9 p.m. And it was a lit court, and we would just play, and it was all good fun. Just about everybody from the community was out there. And I think if we had something like that, again, that was open to the public for those times after school, where these guys could go play basketball or go do something like that, constructive instead of destructive, I think it would serve a good purpose.
I have no problem with after school. I'm just talking 9, 10, 12 o'clock at night.
Who would be responsible for turning the lights on and off and handling the concession and?
Always put them on a timer.
Well, the concessions would only be open for special events. That wouldn't be something that's just open all the time.
But who would be responsible for that concession?
Probably Friends of Cornelius Williams Park, or whoever was doing the event would rent out the concession stand. We would have contracts for those things. It's done at parks all over where you have a concession. Sometimes it'll be an open kitchen. Sometimes we even use women's clubs when we need it. So it'd be a rental fee just like a pavilion. Most of that will probably be run by Friends of Cornelius Williams, because it would be the money that they're collecting to try and help support the park.
I have a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
On the goal number 1, it says, creating road around the perimeter of the park so users can get around, but do not drive through the grass or sports area.
Yes, sir. So this is 24 acres. And the problem we have right now, that's really big. And one of the problems we have right now are that people are driving right through our softball fields and right through our baseball fields and even pretty close to the playground, because they're trying to get to the other side of the park where the soccer fields are. And then they'll park out there, and it's not very safe, first of all, and second of all, it's not good for our grass that we've tried so hard, our grounds people try so hard to have a nice lawn out there, and having the cars parked out there for hours on end is really ruining it. So what we have proposed is there's a park up in Alachua County who is also very large and has the same kind of idea. It's not really a paved road. It's not a 50-foot road or a 30-foot road. It's more like a driveway. Usually it's gravel, and or it could be some kind of mulch that's got the same kind of posts and cables around it that guides the cars around the park. This way they can go to the opposite parking lot, and they can park there if there's no parking, and they can also drive over to some of the pavilions with their things without having to haul them. Because, again, 24 acres is quite large. So it's not a road, per se, where it's, we have to maintain it as a road, but it's more of a driveway.
Well, when I Because when I'm looking at this and see this around, I see horseshoe pits against it.
Mhm.
I see, picnic tables against it. It runs parallel with the football and soccer fields. That's not considered would be a danger for kids.
Well, don't forget that as far as the horseshoe pits and the benches and things, those are all not to scale. So they could be a good 30, 40, 50 feet away. Also, it will have the post and cable running against it, so they shouldn't be hopping over that with their cars. So it would be away from the park. And I can get you some examples of other parks that have done this that's been really successful. I believe there's one in Newberry that, they have a whole lot going on out there. And to walk from the parking lot to the back part would take you a good 10, 15 minutes, especially with stuff. And thus the park is extremely large.
Public Works actually requested this because when you're maintaining this facility, but you're not able to drive through the facility, it gives you easy access around it.
Okay. So the ultimate goal to this is you're gonna start basically another youth league. Because if you're asking for bleachers and dugouts at the softball fields, and another basketball court, you got your son on the football field requesting, goalposts and things, to me, it sounds like you're going to wanna start another league, which is perfectly fine.
Well, Mr. Cox, we do have 2 or 3 leagues that are utilizing this right now. We have adult softball and we have soccer on the weekends. So it's already being utilized that way. We just want to make it a little bit more friendly for everybody to use at all times. And then it's busy, you know, during the week. And also, if we give them these great amenities, we can start to charge some fees for some of these pavilions to rent out for parties and whatnot and bring a little bit of revenue.
Okay, so if we're using lights at night, who pays the utilities?
The city pays the utilities.
One comment I have to what you just said is if we rent the facility, it's gonna be us renting it, not them renting it.
Yes, ma'am.
That's the way I see it anyway, it's
Yes,
ours,
ma'am.
it's not theirs, it has to come through us, not through them.
Yes, ma'am.
I wasn't quite sure that's what I heard you say.
Yes.
Yeah. Do what now?
Our Parks and Rec.
Yes.
Yes.
And then, who would be responsible, like if you're doing a softball league, who's responsible for striping the field? You know, the lines going down the first and third home plate?
The Parks Department is responsible.
Are they gonna be striping the football fields and the soccer fields and changing the nets for the soccer, if there's a football game and all that? Who's gonna be doing all this?
It was my understanding that that's where the fundraising was gonna be coming in and assisting, am I not right, Chief Dappling?
Ma'am, if I may.
Chief Stigall was the ad.
If it's on. I was, on the board of directors for the Little League Association. I headed up many tournaments and many activities of what we're talking about, what we're proposing tonight. I will say this, that generally, the group that is putting on a tournament, they supply the umpires, they supply the people who will stripe the fields, they take care of everything. Our only duties would be the facilities, in my, you know, in what I performed in the past, or what I've been a part of in the past. We took care of the bathrooms, we made sure the concession stand was ready to be rented out to a group, and that group that come in, they lined the fields, they took care of stuff, and they were responsible for cleaning it up when they got through.
Because you never quite know which sport it's gonna be. It could be soccer one time, it could be football the next.
But here's the thing,
Which are completely lined.
even if that is the case, this is the city. So you may have children who wanna go out and play on these softball fields and baseball fields. Who's gonna line it? Are you gonna have them to line it? If we are maintaining this, that's part of the maintenance. It should be part of the maintenance because it's a baseball field that the city has, it's a softball field that the city has. If a group comes in and wants to play, then over the weekend or however it goes, then they have to make sure they maintain it. But if kids wanna go out and play on this field, it should be maintained as though they are playing
I mean, I can see the clay being there and the bases being there, but no line.
Yeah, if I may,
Right.
Ms. Jones,
Yeah.
we, in the past, like if somebody's playing a pickup game, and that, I'm assuming that's what you're talking about,
Yeah.
we've never lined the field
No,
in
you
the
don't
past.
line the field.
We've never done that.
You just make sure the
One of the
bases are
things
there
that
and
the
the play
bases
is
are there, and we make sure that through Public Works and his, the people, they would make sure that the clay doesn't turn into concrete and stuff like that.
Right.
You know, that kind of
I've been
maintenance.
out there and played just a regular game.
Right.
And it's been lined. We didn't do it.
I don't,
I mean, the grant, this was years ago, so I'm
Yeah.
just saying.
many years ago, I understand. I couldn't pass that up also.
Somebody may have also learned that you weren't aware of it. I mean, I know you don't have to leave, like a soccer guy. Oh, we don't normally line it. It must have been left over from someone, you better leave.
So the Parks Department does line it. They don't go out and reline it all the time. So, and then also the groups will come in and fancy it up a little bit when they have their events. So for the most part, it should be maintained in line.
You don't have to do, you just walk the lanes.
Yes,
Out
ma'am.
there. I have 2 of them myself, so. It's happening.
Well, I just want to make the clarification, because, our committee, the Friends of Denise Williams Park Committee, we presented ourselves in front of the council. We make sure that
If you
anyone
don't
that's
come to
interested in
my phone, I
doing.
can hear you. I'm having difficulty hearing you, I'm sorry. You have a soft voice. Thank you, ma'am.
Jacqueline Ackland, just a clarification with our committee. I've had a lot of people that come and ask me about what can I do at the park, can I rent the park? We make sure that it's known that that is not our responsibility. They still have to come to the office, follow the rules that they need to follow to use the park. When things are done out there, we've tried this year with the pandemic, it's been a really trying year to try things. And we have had various things happen at that park. And so therefore, we put things in place that we know will make it work. If your group wants to rent the park or do whatever, you come get what they need from City Hall.
Right.
When we had it out there, we had a kickball tournament out there. We took the responsibility of making sure the field was lined. Maintaining the field, like keeping the grass and those things, I've worked with, Jonathan and CJ and various other people to make sure that part was done, so that we didn't go before us what we need to do there. But anything that has that part, we try to make sure people understand it's not the Denise Williams group that's responsible for that. They have to follow those same rules that's required that's been given to them by the city. If they want to rent a pavilion or rent the concession stand, those are things they don't go through us. So I think it's to kind of guide, like we've been doing, but try things at that park, and we've seen successful things out there. From cleanup day to movie night, which we're hoping all these things will continue, but we've learned through that what we can do and what can happen at the park. As far as the lights out there, like, I played tennis over at Westside, and the lights are out there, and more of your teenagers and more people play basketball games out there because it's not hot. When they get off from work, they're there, they have their teams, they have their league. They do it after dark, or during the dark time. But at a certain time I waited, they shut the lights off and people clear out. So they respect those rules if they know the rules. And that's all these things that we've been trying to do as our committee, is to make sure those things are in line, so people don't think it's just show up, do whatever, go through the needs. That's not what we've been trying to do. We try to make sure we've done everything we've been asked to do. But to see the growth of that park, just from the little things we're doing, it's been, to me, heartwarming, because I know and I see that it can happen for our children in our community. And I think everyone that's speaking up and saying, like, Lamar, he's my age. Lamar, we know the way it's the basketball court is dark, light. But that was where we went.
Yep.
That was where we hung out. That's where we played basketball. I played softball out there. I played street ball. We played at that field years and years ago. We lined the field. I bought a liner. We have that liner so we can line the field for those that need it. Like Ms. Hines said, when children can't do it, they can let them play on anything. They play on anything to play, and I've been out there with families that they brought kids out there just to have that release and watch the kids just run around and it's just amazing. So like I said, we're still a committee that's trying to do the right thing to make sure everyone in the community does, make it a proper community. We appreciate that. So, and as far as, like I said, I know we kept mentioning about that 501c plan. Mr. Robert Wells is not here tonight, but we are working with the group called the Tortu Foundation. So I have all that information to make you all know that we're following everything you've asked us to do. As far as becoming nonprofit, and being able to collect money and to have that cash out card thing for my daughter, people wanna donate. And we put everything in place to make sure we're ready, almost like the shelter that's coming up, I'm so excited about that. We want this park to have everything in order.
So he's working on it, probably.
So he has that if you call him, he will give you any information, you couldn't make it tonight, wifey's birthday, and I told him to take care of wife.
So you're saying he has one that you're working
He can
under?
give you information on anything you need to know about where we are as far as that.
Okay, but it's not complete yet, okay.
Like I said, he can give you information, you will find that it's more complete than what it is. It's everything, he said, call them, Torture Foundation, I'll give you his number, give you all the information, you can answer any questions on that. But I was told to tell you that, and that was all I can say right now.
Okay, so I just won't ask him questions.
Robert Wells, and he's called you
But you
several
don't
times,
have
but
one at
I
home.
have.
And you're not working under him?
If you get Robert Wells, he can answer all your questions. So he will call you. I was just told to make.
It's not just me, but he's about everybody.
Everyone. I have the number. He couldn't be here because his wife's birthday tonight. He would answer all of those questions.
Okay.
But Tartu Foundation was all he said.
So what is that? What is that foundation?
Well, I have a letter, and I'll just read the letter that we received.
I'm afraid I don't know.
I didn't wanna get.
It's a subsidiary of the, coalition.
Coalition, and a lot of the schools are funded this. This is from the Tartu Foundation, Williston, Florida, to whom it may concern on April 21st, 2021. We look forward to continue discussing with you about serving as your physical agent for the Prentice and News Williams Community Park, Williston, Florida. In coming days, Robert Wells will reach out to you with a simple memorandum of understanding, which will outline your roles and responsibilities, as well as our roles and responsibilities. In the long term, we're looking forward to assisting you with forming and maintaining your 501c3 nonprofit corporation. And then the telephone number is what I was told to give anyone that would like to have questions.
You don't have to give it to me, because that doesn't answer your question.
Well, I'm Ms. Jones, I was just giving you what I was given. That's all I can do, and he apologized for not being here to answer those.
All right, go for
And can I say, when we're talking about like,
Wait a minute, I want his phone number.
Oh, yes, ma'am, Robert Wells.
I got that part.
Okay. Telephone number is 352-359-0396. And that's gonna be under the GPC Prevention, and his email address, gpcprevention@gmail.com. Gilchrist Prevention Coalition. Robert Wells is the executive director. And he's working with Mr. Jonathan Lewis.
Okay, so the Prevention Coalition. Okay. I still don't understand whether he's giving it for you or you're under his. I guess I'll call him and ask.
Yes, ma'am.
It should be a simple question, you can answer.
Well, like I said, he just, I'm just, I went by what I was asked to.
Okay.
If that question came up, I just happened to know I had that letter. And any other questions?
Seems like an avoidance. Sorry, I'll call him and ask him, if that's what you want me to do. All right.
Thank you.
so before we get started, just quick about the lights, not necessarily just here at Community Shooting Park, but also at all the parks. I rode around with the, police officer, and you can't, just right, I wouldn't even know there was a park out there. If we had some lights to highlight our parks, then people would kind of ride, where they ride by, see it and know, hey, there's a park there, maybe I'll go visit that park, you know, so. Not at night, but if I can see your park at night as I'm riding by, because otherwise I wouldn't even know there was a park there.
If you go in the daytime, I know there's a park there.
Correct, everybody doesn't travel in the daytime. I might be coming out of town.
Lights on at night, then I think they're open at night and go play at night.
I can tell you that there are probably,
I'm just saying, my feeling behind it is, if I can't see it, I don't know it's there.
I don't want him to see it at night. I'm
So you don't have to have a visitor.
I want him to see it at the daytime. Mr. Fuller.
Our idea was that we need security at night.
Okay.
And many things can happen on 24 acres if it's not lit up. There should be security lights because people like to do things in the dark.
And I was getting ready to say that, but I didn't get it out. At John Henry Park, if you looked at that one, there are probably 2 or 3 low-level lights. They're not very bright. If you go look tonight even, any night, There are lights there, but it's just enough so that you can see across the park. Not for anybody to do anything, because they're very low level, and not for use for
What about
using
your
the
other
park.
park? The one over, I guess, by your house, over past, Henry, down.
You mean the
Peggy
Peggy-
O'Neill?
you mean the Peggy O'Neill or Peggy O'Neill?
And I saw
The
the
tennis
tennis
court,
court, I didn't realize that was.
the tennis court comes off and on. It has a, you turn it on when you need it, you turn it off when you don't. And it's been that way for 50 years, maybe even longer. And it was that way because the high school, before they built their own courts out next to the elementary school, they used that, because that was the only court in town. Now I don't think anybody uses it.
I just think it's a good
Yeah,
idea.
they do.
Do they? You see people there?
Well, during the day anyway,
Oh, during the day?
yeah. Yeah.
And
there are lights at Peggy
O'Neill,
O'Neill.
again, is one that has very low level lights in it, they're not real bright. And it's just so that pretty much the police can see across and know if there's anybody there that doesn't belong there.
So there's a difference between your solar lighting, which that's what we'd be talking about, that would come on at night, just that low-level lighting would be our solar, and stadium lighting for events. They're two different types, so.
I don't know how bright solar lights are.
Well, and
I wouldn't think
they
they would
don't
be
do
very
the
bright.
light pollution, they do they aim at the
Uh-huh.
ground,
Yep.
so that you can see if there's activity taking place.
Exactly.
The stadium lighting's gonna light up that field.
Sure.
So we have to decide if that's something that's desirable, and I'm not saying right away, but as we go forward, I mean, that's an expense
Major expense.
that we have to talk about. Either it's metered, we do it, and it only comes on during certain events, and we have a group that that would rent the field only at night, however you wanna do it. There's different ways of setting this up. What we would do is go and see how other parks, facilities, how they manage their facility in the evenings too. I mean, we're not the only ones to do this, as far as events. If you wanted to have a soccer game at 7 at night or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Does others do it? Do they have stadium lighting? If they do, how do they work that out? Does the city pay for it? I mean, we can check around and see how it's done. But I just wanna know what's the desire here. Do you just want solar lighting for security at night? Or do you want some of these fields to have stadium for an event? That's the question I have.
And Ms. Gorman, if I may, the technology for solar lights has advanced substantially in the last few years, and I've seen quite a few products that are being used not for stadium lighting, but are quite bright, and they are solar. So there is a little bit more investment in the beginning, but then, the city wouldn't have to pay for the power.
What do you want your perimeter fence to be? Is it gonna be chain link?
We haven't got that far, have we?
We are hoping for a real substantial fence around the perimeter.
So there's no funding planned and we haven't got to that stage.
Because in my younger days, when I played softball at Gainesville, on leagues, seeing this drawing, I see it more of, you guys are gearing towards to have leagues out there, adult leagues and things like that. They have some really nice lights up there to play. I mean, if you played at Diamond Sports Park, it's like playing in daytime. Big expense. But, we had to pay for a team, we paid like $400, $500.
Yes, Mr. Cox, in our comp plan, this is a sports complex.
Okay. Don't get me wrong, I'm for it. Now the big part that I need to see is the cost. Because if we could go ahead and go, okay, yeah, we'll do this, and next thing you know, we're $750,000 in upgrades and lighting and
Well, that would be a beautiful park, Mr. Cox.
It would be nice.
But don't forget now, we're not, just like this perimeter fence, this isn't phase 2. This is all contingent on funding, and as we bring each item back, we're gonna talk about cost of maintenance and all of that. Because as this park grows, so does our staffing, so does our maintenance fees, so does our electric. I mean, everything, we have to identify and make sure we can do. So we're taking this is your roadmap, is all this is. You approve this, then we start working one project at a time as we go forward. Right now, we have is the two things, Laura. We have the post and wire fence that's been donated by SPAR, and some lights have been.
The Friends could talk more about what's been donated and what's been held.
We kept that in the first phase, so we knew we could do it right away.
Well, I see on here that you wanna apply for a grant in 23-24.
Yes, sir.
You got any dollars?
Well, the FERDAP grant, they're pretty much only giving out $50,000 now. They're no longer giving out the 200, maybe every 2 to 3 years. But there are, other grants that are available, especially if we get this going as a sports complex. Then it gets, the grant umbrella gets even bigger and bigger.
And we're talking about security and surveillance, and you wanna put surveillance cameras out there. Who maintains that surveillance equipment? Does it go into the PD? Does it come into the city? Do we may have somebody manning that surveillance and all of this?
These are
Who does
excellent
that?
questions. Right now, we do have some surveillance cameras out there, and they do come into the Parks Department. We would like to get them probably upgraded a little bit, and right now, they come into the parks. I guess that's a discussion that Parks would have to have with PD if they decided that they wanted
That's
to.
just around the restrooms, isn't it?
That's all that's all we have right now.
It covers a little bit more than that.
Okay, and then I'm looking at here with the fencing and the blocking off and all this other kind of stuff up here. And if we ask our police department to come out there and check for security, so we're asking them if they're gonna have to walk 24 acres
We should have a road around it, sir.
around the perimeter, but that, I mean, like you said, it's 24 acres, and I've driven that perimeter. And you drive on that, you drive the perimeter over here, and you can hardly see down to either of the ball fields from that perimeter up there. So what about all the interior of that?
These are excellent questions and details that we'd have to probably talk to the chief about how he would like us to give him access to the center of the park.
Because you should be aware that the police department, all they can do is go ahead, and if they see something, if they see a problem, if they see vandalism, or whatever, if there's something wrong, or if there's a fight, or anything that transpires there in the park, they can't do anything about it. They have to call the sheriff's department to come and do the investigation. So this is something that you need to take into consideration.
I think when we start looking at this drive, it's not just one perimeter drive, we're gonna have areas that you can, I mean, if you just do the perimeter, you're not doing any good. You need to make this drive to where you can get the full, we'll do that, we'll look at it to make sure it makes sense.
But then I'm looking up here too, and I see walking trail with an arrow. Where is the walking trail? You've got the perimeter road there. Where is the walking trail?
I think the question is, would you like to see a walking trail, and if you do wanna see a
No,
walking trail,
if I'm
we'll
not,
bring a
if
plan
I'm
back.
not
as well.
mistaken, that was one of the things that they wanted was a walking trail.
So we'll bring a plan back when we do the trail where it's gonna go, and y'all can talk about that in detail. This is just like, do you want one or not? Can we plan on later? We'll bring you a plan back showing you where the trail will be, and we'll define it.
I'm just wondering if maybe we could do, bring it back to in phases. You know, when if you will think about this master plan as a guide, and then as we're ready to either look for funding or we get funding for a phase, then we can bring it back to you for a final approval.
And another thing here, I'm looking at this fire hydrant.
Yes, sir.
There's one. If I'm looking at it correctly, and there's one fire hydrant here, where's the water and everything gonna come from for that fire hydrant, and what's it gonna be utilized for?
Well, the fire hydrant was requested because of the car lots that are on the outside of the park and the vegetation, and they're not necessarily afraid that anything inside the park is going to catch on fire. They're afraid that things outside of the park will cause a fire.
Well, what about the infrastructure to the fire hydrant? I mean, is that gonna be, where's the water gonna be coming from to man the fire hydrant?
So we already have a main water, coming up 318, and actually, we already have, a line that goes into the park. There is a water meter there, obviously the bathrooms are
But that
serviced.
goes into the bathrooms, right?
Correct, but what I'm saying is there's, up the back entrance, there is a main that comes up through there. And so it's not much to do an extension to put a hydrant wherever the council desired at whatever frequency the fire department would desire.
Well, if I'm looking at the gate here, at this, and you're talking about the main comes up from that gate area?
The back gate.
Yeah, where it says parking lot right there, the picnic table, the light and whatnot.
Yes, sir.
Right there. So you're gonna run that thing all the way across the field?
Well, that would depend
For
on,
that one fire hydrant.
that would depend on the fire plan. We usually get with Danny and we talk to chief and we see what's the strategic placing. I mean, even on a business, you're only talking at hydrants are every 500 feet, so it's a little bit
Yeah,
spread out.
And I understand that, and I know where you're talking about, where the water main is and coming and everything, but you've got one fire hydrant way clear across the field.
Right, well, we also have water at the front side that services shifting gears. So remember, we service all the water out there as well.
Okay, so you could
So-
cut it off of shifting gears.
Yes, sir. So we have water at the front, and then we have the water main in the back that comes in from 318. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, okay. And I feel pity for the poor pet zone. But I tell you what, where that sucker is here on this diagram, if you're down there at the soccer field or football, that's a long walk up there for those pets to go up to the pet zone.
The pet zone was specifically asked for, to try and get rid of a very hidden, scary corner and open it up a little bit and have more usage there. And not necessarily people that are at the soccer fields, but these are people, I bring my dog Danny to this park a lot, and obviously I can't, do much with him because it's just an open field, I wouldn't ever let him go. But this would be a little chance for him to, maybe there'd be some water there, and a chance for him to go inside a gated area. So it wouldn't be necessarily for the people that are playing soccer to walk their dogs over. And smaller things that parks often have that are very often donated are doggy bag, little things every 200 feet or so. And those are all details that we can work out in the future if we're seeing a lot of pets there.
Blue emergency phones?
Yes, sir, that was also requested by the Friends of Cornelius Williams.
What is that purpose?
Safety.
I know what the purpose is, but who in the world's gonna pay for it?
Everybody has cell phones, I'm not sure I get it.
Exactly.
I'm used to, when I was in college, we've had blue phones forever, University of Florida's got.
Remember those?
University of Florida's got blue phones, but
Yeah.
everybody's got cell phones now,
Yes, ma'am, it was requested, and like I said, it's a wish list and a plan.
and it's a
So-
service that has to be paid for monthly.
And there are some grants for those kinds of security services.
Ultimately, if you say you do all this,
Yes, sir.
and you get all this done,
Yes, sir.
and say you do everything with John Henry Park,
Yes, sir.
is the city gonna hire a parks person to take care of this park and that park? And I'm not talking about maintenance or anything, I'm not talking about that, talking about a director or whatever.
Yes, sir. When you talk to somebody like me or like Jackie or Miss Athling or even Donald who have big plans, these are wonderful problems to have. If I have parks that are so full and I have to hire somebody to go out there and manage them, I'll make that happen somehow. That's a wonderful problem to have.
Yeah.
Let me add to that.
Where you gonna find the money, because the thing of it is, even if you hire somebody to stay for 40 hours a week, that is not a 40-hour-a-week job. That could entail evening works, especially during the summertime, or on the weekends when you have, out here, when you have teams and whatnot, with people coming in.
Yeah, I don't think we could ever manage teams. We tried that.
The teams will typically manage themselves.
Yeah, that's what I'm
And
saying.
parks will always, the Friends of Cornelius Williams is not my first, time that I've dealt with Friends of. Where I grew up, we had a Friends of, and they were extremely large. They had over 1,000 members and volunteers that helped make sure that the entire Jupiter Beach was clean of any dog issues so that they could keep it a dog park. And they went out and cleaned once a month, and we had about 400 people every Saturday, and Publix would give us bagels and sandwiches, and these things can get quite large, and they took care of that beach like you wouldn't believe. And the town of Jupiter really appreciated it, because then they didn't have to hire 2 or 3 people to do it every day, all day. So these are things that the citizens wanted to help us with, and, if we have a friend of John Henry, that would be wonderful too. So,
The maintenance equipment shed and the, storage shed for sports equipment or whatever, who's gonna be responsible for all that?
well, the parks asked for the maintenance equipment shed to be out there, so they wouldn't have to haul their stuff out there every time they had to go. And then the other shed for the sports equipment was asked for by Friends of. So they would have their own keys, and nobody would have keys to the city shed.
Okay, did I see something in there that you wanted to put some upgrade vandalism-proof, restroom equipment or whatnot in there or something?
Yeah,
What is vandalism-proof equipment?
Yes, sir. There are doors that will lock, self-lock at certain times and self-unlock, and they're quite hardy doors, so you usually cannot get through them. Other things for vandalism-proof bathrooms are concrete sinks instead of porcelain or ceramic. They can't break them off the walls, they can't get them unless they have like a heavy-duty, equipment. And we're not the only place that has to deal with vandalism. I have had some serious conversations with other towns that have dealt with it, and there are whole companies that sell vandalism or tamper-proof things for parks.
I'm gonna knock on wood here and say, since Friends of Cornelius Williams have been here, we haven't had any vandalism out there that I'm aware of. So that's a wonderful thing to be able to say.
Yes, ma'am. We have to thank the police too for going out there a little bit more.
I always thank the police.
Yeah.
And honestly, we continue to talk about, beautifying the city of Williston. This is a great area to beautify and allow people an opportunity to see it and go and visit, and then, that may actually bring people into your town as well. So when we talk about beautifying our city, we want to beautify all of our cities. And this is a park that the city owns. So therefore, we need to make sure that we take care of that property as well.
Where's the pickleball court?
We own all of them. A lot of them are in the same position, if not worse.
Where's the pickleball court?
I think the pickleball court was supposed to be merged with the horseshoe pit.
What is a pickleball court?
It's a Yankee thing.
It's a miniature tennis court.
Uh-huh.
It's very popular.
I don't know.
It's very popular.
No, it's not on there, but it is, if you read in there, it says pickleball court. I'm just trying to figure out where it goes.
And do you have people that will play horseshoes? Did they request that? Because we used to have 2 out here, and nobody ever played. We built some at John Henry, nobody ever played. Ever.
We were thinking about,
So do you have people that will play? Okay, that's good.
Yes.
That's good.
Goalpost, we got goalposts for football?
it's on the wish list.
That's what we could. We don't have them now, but we could.
That's what those little blue beads are. They're gold posts.
I would like to just see, this is what we need now,
Yeah.
a separate thing, saying this is our
Phase.
wish list, and then go from there.
Yeah, what are the most important things, the most immediate?
I would like to see one that has the current facilities shown, and then in a different color, phase 1.
Well, if you look at the CAD drawing that is attached with the survey, that should have all the current facilities on it. The only thing that's different is that the walking trail is no longer there.
And let me explain too, again, this is your overall, these are the things we want out
I
there.
can't see the CAD drawing, it's too little.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
As we move forward, we'll bring you plans for every improvement that's gonna be done.
Along with cost?
Yes, you have to. This is just a roadmap for budgeting, looking for grants. If, yes, we'd like these things at this park, and if you do, we'll analyze each and every one as we go through it for maintenance, for funding, all those things that's important, for materials, to make sure we're getting the best we can. This right here just says, these are the things we want out there. As we implement this, you'll see designed drawings.
So what you're asking the council tonight to do is say, okay, let's do all of this. Is that what you want?
I think the idea of the master plan is one day, we'd like to have these things at this park. One day. And that helps us start making that happen as we budget, look for funding, look for grants, look for volunteer fundraising, whatever that is. And we try to put it in some type of phase for importance, because we know some things are gonna happen soon because of what's been donated. We wanna get that started.
But with the changes that have been discussed here tonight, that is not an accurate plan.
Well, the plan was only supposed to say, if we have a pavilion, we're kinda looking in this area, if we had another bathroom, are y'all okay with all of that? As we go forward, make it happen, you'll get a detailed drawing. That's all this is the roadmap of where you'd like to go one day. You'd like to see this happen. If we got $10 million to put in this park, are all of these things acceptable to you at this park? That's what this is. It might, the way we're going, it might take 10 years to do it, but this is the dream plan at the very end of the day. But as we bring it to fruition, you'll get detailed design drawings, a product approval and everything. You'll see every phase, at every phase.
At every item, that's what I'm hearing.
Yes, like the walking trails, you want it in there, we'll make it go in there. You know, the driveways through there, yes, we're gonna get those in there, if it makes sense.
Well, I have a couple of things, I haven't said a whole lot about it, but I'm good with the fence outside, the outside perimeter fence. I'm good with the walking, you wanna call it a road or a walking path, that's where I put the walking path, that gold line you got going around, I'd make that the tricycle thing and the walking path, I would make it that.
Did a golf cart go through that too?
You could do that too, yes you could. But, again, most of my experience is looking at John Henry. I think you need the post and cable inside, again, the trail. Because right now at John Henry, they're driving all over the place.
Yes.
Everywhere. They're driving, 40 cars are inside the park.
Really?
Yes, all the time. Saturday and Sunday, they're everywhere. And when it comes to the pavilions, I'm not so fond of the little ones. Let's do a couple of pretty good sized ones. Because again, I look at John Henry Park and they got little bitty ones everywhere. And you can't use them, they're too little. Every time somebody wants to have something, they have to put up a big tent. So let's do 2 good sized pavilions. One on each side even, instead of little bitty ones.
I'd like to have one right there close to the ball fields. Because, I mean, if you're out there playing ball, whatever, it's Florida weather and whatnot, if you're out there and it starts raining like crazy, you got a pavilion right there that you could eat, go under.
And if you had 2 that were good size, but I'm saying like 20 by 20, something like that, you could rent to 2 different events. Instead of having one that was 20 by 30 or 20 by 40 and having little bitty things that are more just for shade than anything else. And you could do them for shade, that's pretty much all they are at John Henry. The other thing is, do kids really drink out of water faucets anymore? I mean, water fountains? I know you need water fountains. Do you have water fountains on here, or am I making that up?
No, that's actually a water faucet.
I know, but should they be drinking? Everybody I know who's got a water fountain has turned it off because of COVID. Are they still functioning? I'm shocked that kids are still drinking. I don't drink out of a water fountain anymore. That would be much better than drinking out of it together. Yeah.
Right now, the kids are drinking out of the faucet by the bathroom.
Right.
So I know it would be better than them putting their mouth on that one faucet by the bathroom.
Yeah.
Then it would be much better to have a fountain as opposed to that.
Yeah.
But the other thing you mentioned about pavilions, a pavilion needs to be bigger than 20 by 20 if you're gonna make it accessible for renting, for say family reunion or party or whatever. The proposal was 1 large pavilion. Now you may say 2 large pavilions.
There's a bunch of little ones all over here too.
But at least 1 large pavilion, and it needs to have restrooms attached to it. so that people are not going all the way across the park just to go to a restroom.
Well, if you have one right there by the ball fields, where I think Ms. Appling and I, we talked about that one day, and I even sent her a picture of one. If you put it out there close to those two ball fields, you're gonna have the restrooms right there by that pavilion.
Well,
That's not where they are now. That's not where the restroom is now. The restroom now is where that green triangle is.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's where the restroom is existing.
Right.
If you put it, if you just go up toward the picnic table, somewhere in that little white area right there and put a pavilion. You've got the kids' playground right there, you've got the ball fields, you've got the pavilion right there. You've got everything that you need. And I did send Jackie a picture of one, that I took when I went up to Georgia.
well, we have a couple of examples. The pavilion that I had constructed when I was at the extension office, that thing works great for almost any event or activity. And in fact, a lot of people.
Is it like 20 by 40? What is that?
That pavilion is, 40 by 60. But now the restrooms are included in that space. And the storage building is included in that space. And that's what we were talking about, is a pavilion that would, on the back side of the pavilion, include both storage and restrooms. So that if someone is renting that space, they're separate from all the rest of the park. They'll have the restrooms included there along with the pavilion. So that, you know, whatever, family reunion or whatever there is, there would be the opportunity to have everything in one space. And I think there's a value to that.
What was the reason for the smaller pavilions being placed where they were? What was the concept behind it? What was the thought process behind it?
I think it was a lot more families to be able to utilize. If I went out with my family, you had a family reunion, I would want to be able to use the pavilion as well, as opposed to joining your family reunion pavilion. Now, Mayor asked about the pavilion. If you look where the AP, am I correct? That's that big pavilion. If you look at the bathroom, that's right near the field. That's the big pavilion that's there.
Yeah, if you're planning to build a second restroom.
You see the,
And he was trying to get it close to the current one, is what he was doing.
right, and that's between those fields, that's in that vicinity.
In the ball field.
So you want one big pavilion and maybe just a couple of little ones around the perimeter where everybody walks so they can stop for lunch or something? We're talking just little picnic tables on the roof, right?
That
That's
would
all
allow
I'm
different
thinking.
venues, but there's a big one there that's right near the field, the softball field. I mean, the soccer field.
They're not listening. Epperson Park is a total, disaster.
There's stuff that needs to be done over there too.
Well, you'll see Epperson come right now, we're working on a drainage issue out there.
Yeah.
But all the parks, if we do this right and we recreate, you know, get purposes for each of our parks, that'll give something for our families to do on weekends, and there'll be different places to do it. So, I know in Apopka, they focus all of their energy on their parks, and it's amazing how house values go up when you live near them, because it is an amenity for your town if you do them right, but it gives our families something to do, if our parks are done correctly. So we want to master plan them the best we can. All we're trying to do is just understand what facilities you want on this, and we'll be bringing you a better design and more detail as we go forward.
Well, I think you need to bring a better design now based on the conversation
We
here
do that.
tonight, other than that right there.
Sure, put the rows in, get the pavilion, one big one, and then a couple of little picnic tables with little roofs on them or something. We'll bring you some ideas of what it should look like. How's that?
Because they said what they want. Now we're making suggestions, so we need to have that common goal of what we're gonna do, not because the city says well, we want this, so now that's what it's gonna be. So when you bring it back, we need to have a discussion instead of just saying, okay, that's what the council wanted, and that's what it's gonna be.
No, I think they're gonna take into consideration of what everybody has said here tonight.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, we will.
I'm hoping that that's what it is.
We will.
Well, it's the way it gotta be. The way it should be.
It's correct, it is. That doesn't mean it has to, so that's what I'm saying.
I may ask if y'all would allow us to start working on the parking lot, as far as wanting to know where we're at with all this donated stuff. So while we're working on the big picture, okay, we'd like to go on and start on that parking lot, and you'll get a design on that, because we have to make sure it's dimensioned out.
And cost.
So you're just gonna run it all the way down to the current basketball court? And all the way, where does the current parking lot sit now? I mean, I know where it is, but on this drawing, what part of it is the current parking lot? Are you gonna expand both ends?
Well, if you see that little dotted line right there,
Yes, the dotted line.
if you would just follow it through the existing parking lot,
I can't
you've
tell.
got parking, that would be basically the parking lot as it is now. Is that what you see, Mr. Fuller?
No, it's not next to the basketball court now.
Yeah, I know. That's what
That's
I'm
an expanded court, expanded parking lot now.
Right.
Because the parking lot is not run all the way to the entrance.
We'll get a survey of what's existing. and
There's
let's
a
see if-
survey 2 pages after.
It's so small, Laura. Have you seen what's in our packet?
If I may.
If you look at where that look like a little grassy area right next to the dotted line, if you take that grassy area and go across the yellow, rectangle, and then look back towards your court, that's about the size of the current parking lot.
So you're saying it's on this end, it's what's current?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know. So.
Miss
you're-
Latricia, could you go 2 pages?
The survey that you see, we will pull off of that and enlarge and put a design on it.
Yeah, you can't read that. I
Okay.
don't know how you think I can read that.
The existing parking lot.
Yeah, it's in my packet for.
Oh, no, that's not in my plan. Oh, it's not in my plan.
I've been in the existing parking lot, obviously,
It's right.
This is supposed to just be a generality of what we're doing. We'll fine tune it.
Yeah, but you're asking to do the parking lot.
I'm asking, and it will be on the survey to scale.
Okay, so you're gonna do that first?
Yes, I'm asking while we're working on the big one, if you'll allow us to start this parking lot, we'll bring it to you to scale, so you see what it is. Because we have to figure out where drives are gonna come up with this too. We have to figure all that.
You can bring it to the council with the cost and everything. I mean, there's nothing.
Yeah, we will.
What about the drive on that little survey of coming in off of 318?
That's where you see the gate on the end corner.
Yeah, so that's gonna be another entryway?
What are you gonna do with that road?
Right.
I'm sorry?
What are you gonna do with that road? Off of 318?
Oh, the back entrance?
Yeah.
We would like to open it up as an entrance to the park.
How? Why? What are you gonna do with it? How are you gonna do it?
It's 50 feet of property that we own.
I know that, but I mean, it's all, it's trees and you got a little
It's a
grass drive of
utility
it, there, you
easement,
gonna
not a
pave it, what
It's
are you gonna
not
do?
actually a utility easement, it's,
It has water and sewer lines running down.
okay, I'll let Donald speak to it.
You know exactly what it's
It does have a utility easement, but it is actually large enough, and it was originally put there and cleared as access to the park. Now, that could have been maintenance access, that could have been permanent access, but if you look at, 2 lanes with swales on either side, it actually is large enough to have traffic coming in and traffic coming out, if that's what the council desires. Yes, we do have utilities, but the utilities were put way off to the one side in anticipation that if it were ever used as access, it still had the space to do so.
You gonna keep a gate there and locked at night?
I believe it's the parking that you see, right south of the fields. there would be a barrier there to not allow them to go past that parking area. So the road goes right into that, and then it would stop. So the same barrier that you're having around the current parking lot would be utilized on that parking as well.
I see a light and picnic table right there.
No, that's an island so that traffic goes one way. So it would go around one way and then back out.
I'm looking at, I haven't seen a.
Yeah, it's not to scale.
And I'm not real thrilled about opening an access on the 318. Just
And there's
put it out there.
There's no fence on that parking lot either.
Because it's county for one thing.
Yeah.
So it's a county road that we can't maintain surveillance of or anything else unless our cops go outside the perimeter. And I don't believe, are there neighborhoods on either side of that entryway? There's not. As far as I know, they're commercial establishments.
Across the street there are.
On the east side of that road, you got a house. On the west side is, Pastor Jones.
Where the church is
three
gonna
three
go.
acre lot that's gonna be a church eventually one day.
Okay. And it's a house, not a, I thought it was a commercial
There's
establishment.
a house
A house.
on the drive coming out, there's a house on the east side, there's some across the street, and then you have the 3 acre, property owned by the church on the west side.
Right, I thought that was a big piece of property. And what's across?
Brick Memorial and the flagpole more centrally over by the ball fields and put it into that area. Because that seems where the bulk of the action would be, where a lot of people would be. And if, people would like to be able to come out, be able to see their,
Yes, sir. I just want to clarify with, for you, Mr. Cox and Mr. Robinson, that you're really, approving the different steps that we want to take and the things that we want to put out there, but not exactly where they are. So we do need to do some engineering. We need to get some costs. I know that that's a big thing. So exactly where they are, it doesn't really, pertain to this approval.
Okay.
So those benches that are right there by the gate, those won't have to go there, we can move those over. And since it's not to scale, it's really hard for you to visualize where those benches are, and I can see that you're having trouble with that against the parking lot. Because obviously the parking lot is much bigger than the little bench.
Well, you're saying you wanna do this in steps and whatnot, but the concept, you want the concept approved. Can you bring another conceptual up here and include the more important things in those steps? Say if it took 5 steps to do that.
So give us current and phase 1.
Yeah, you also, if this is the version that you have, that you're looking at, you can't even see my phases on here. You can't really see the colors that well.
I know. That's why we're lost.
Yeah, I mean, on my version where I printed it here, it's quite clear.
I can read it in your narrative, that's where I read it.
Yeah, but it's, like, I could just look and see that the storage shed is phase 1, the small pavilions are phase 3. I can see that quite easily, but I think you're struggling, because I don't think you can see that.
It's probably holding on here.
Okay. Because I can't see it on that one.
But so are all the other things, so you can't really tell which, what is what.
But if you would allow us to come back to you with phase 1, I would love to do that. And,
Mr. Fuller, let's see what Mr. Fuller has to say.
I'm wondering, since everybody has input, wants input into this, this is probably not the proper setting for this. Could there be a workshop?
No, this is the only setting we can talk to each other. Unless we have
Well,
a
you can
workshop.
talk to each other in a workshop.
We can talk to each other right here. I don't see it starting over again. I mean, if we have to get it past phase 1, maybe we can, but.
It appears you have consensus on the items that are going out.
The elements that are
We
in
just
it.
need to, as we bring
Yeah.
each project to you, then you can really get into the meat of it. We'll show you where it's gonna go by scale and what it's gonna look like for you to vote on and give you options. I'm asking, if you're okay with these different elements, then we'll do a better plan for you. if we're allowed, if we can start with the parking lot.
Yeah.
Because we need to get that done.
And
Well,
I'd
put
like
that
to
in
see the
step
water,
one.
the water mains and the sewer lines, that sort of thing. So we can know where they already exist. I mean, those are already existing, if you can show us those, the already existing water and sewer lines.
And electrical.
So what is it that you want us for?
I don't think the electrical is ours, is the
I just
electrical
want
ours?
you to-
Electrical is not
I
ours.
don't think so.
You
Yeah.
just want us to vote on the concept
The concept.
of the park?
The master plan itself.
Okay.
So, for example, say another group came in and said, we hate that. We want this whole thing to be a splash park. They can't do it, your master plan's approved. But I was a whole big deal. You know, we want a guide, we want something we feel is concrete enough that we can work off of as we move forward with all the different things that need to go to this park. There's a lot needs to happen, funding, we have to pay for someone to draw this to scale. I mean, we have to make sure that we can fund this.
So in order for them to do what they need to do with the candidates and everything, you need to vote on this tonight? Or do you need to bring something back to us?
We can bring something back, I just wanna know that we're going in the right direction.
The fence around the parking lot.
The post ballot around the
She's
parking
talking
lot.
about the fence around the parking lot.
The parking lot. If you're comfortable enough with us to be able to start that, we'll bring you a better plan to look at. You can, you know, do some more tweaking.
Yeah. Everybody comfortable with the parking lot expansion with the post and bollard around it?
I think I went too low.
Got consensus on that? Yeah, on that element, but, so go forth and conquer. Direction right now. When I was out there anyway, they were playing, they weren't way over here, they were this way.
Well, there's not really a field out there, all you got is the two soccer goals, and you can move those anywhere you want.
I guess so, so that's where they're playing right now. Over there's the junkyard. What they do is get them to clean up the junkyard. It's not in the city, it's.
They're playing around the football field.
Do what now?
They're playing around the football field.
Yes, they're playing out here, not out here. That's exactly what I'm saying. They're playing here.
They're playing on the opposite side.
When I was out there, they were.
I saw them playing on the soccer field.
You saw them playing right here? Oh, really? Well, maybe they've moved. Yeah. Cause the Sunday that we had the Easter egg hunt, and all that stuff out there, they were playing right here. And we do have a group, by the way, that has come and gotten permission to use the soccer field for 12 Sundays. They are currently using that for 12 Sundays. They got a special event application out to do that, so we do have a group out there that's using that. Alright, so, you want, I don't know what you want us else to do.
We got guidance, we're good, we'll come back again with a better concept, a little more detail,
Go.
and the parking lot plan. if that's okay.
As long as we don't just discuss it all again.
We're moving forward.
Oh, this is all good. All right, so I don't even know where we are.
Gee.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're up.
All right, we're gonna move to G, we're gonna move fast. Resolution 2021-74, resolution of the City Council of the City of Williston, Lee County, Florida, approving a sealed bid auction for surplus property, vehicle 042, 072, 101, 132, and squad number 72, which I assume is fire department. The rest are police department.
Well, 042 and, 072, or, no, 042 and the, rescue is fire, rest of it's police. We just grouped it all together.
Okay, so do we have any discussion on that from either chief? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Make a motion to approve 2021-74 resolution of seal bid on the vehicles as outlined in letter G.
Thank you so much. Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All, you okay? All right, all in favor say aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item H is resolution 2021-75, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Williston, Florida, to enter in and to amend Agreement with the Florida League of Cities adopting the Florida Municipal Pension Trust Fund Defined Benefit Plan and Trust for the police officers of the city of Williston. Authorizing the city council president to execute the agreement, repealing all resolutions in conflict, and providing an effective date. Chief Brevard.
Yes.
Hi there. We just have that on our desk that was given to you this evening.
Yes, if you recall, this is the one where we changed and y'all voted on, and we went to the 6-year vesting for law enforcement personnel. So this is basically finalizing it.
Permission to sign.
Ma'am?
Permission to sign something that we've already
Absolutely,
approved.
yes, ma'am. Yeah, y'all already approved, and we're paying, to be honest with you.
Okay, any questions for Assistant Chief Brevard, Deputy Chief Brevard? Okay. I'll enter, that man over there. I'll entertain a motion for resolution 2021-75. Thank you, ma'am. Do I have a second? Second. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion from anyone? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item I, resolution 2021-76, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Williston, Florida, to enter into a land lease agreement with Cypress Aircraft Sales, LLC, for a 1.012 acre tract of land at the Williston Airport, as described in the land lease, repealing all resolutions in conflict and providing an effective date. Mr. Stiegler.
So this is a simple land lease for Cypress Aircraft Sales. Cypress Aircraft Sales they already have one hangar on the airfield. They bought Larry Pruitt's hangar a while back. But this is a new development on a place that's, adjacent Alpha Taxiway, right behind Del Zotto's hangar, or the Del Air hangar, if you're familiar with the airport. So this 1 acre lot, they're planning on putting a 100 by 120 hangar for corporate jets, jet sales, and minor maintenance, but not a whole lot. Their plan is to buy jets and sell jets out of this area, and basically have this as their main headquarters. So we've had dealings with both of their owners for before my tenure at the airport. Jay Curtis and Mike Tarver, both of them are pretty good guys. We have a really good business understanding of the concept of operations of Cypress moving forward with Williston. And yeah, I like the plan so far. And I know Kirsten had 1 or 2 questions for me.
I do have a couple of notes on the lease.
Yes, ma'am.
First, I wanted to just confirm with council that they're okay with the 30 years. The 30-year term obviously assignable for
Financing.
right, for all of these purposes. Okay? The only other addition to the lease that we don't have, similar to the animal shelter lease, as we talked about, we're gonna try and get specific descriptions of what is going to be put on the property, what improvements will be made, so that we have those plans in the lease. And those are not currently in there right now. I think that we're working with them to get that put in.
Correct, and part of their lease agreement that we're trying to get factored into it is they are going to provide some of our infrastructure in accordance with the master plan, and we are going to try to help out with their land rent as a result. So they're going to try to pay for part of a taxiway and a service road leading into it. That way they're not driving on our existing taxiways, which is kind of frowned upon. So they would have their own access gate, and they would have their own road leading into at that point. But that would also set up all the tenants in the future to just add to that road in the future, like as future developments come. And we've got a lot of people knocking on the door for hangar space right now and looking at building hangars.
So the lease in front of you in paragraph 3 for the rent talks about how that abatement process is going to work for their rent concerning you know, how we want to reduce the rent based on the improvements they make on the property. And so that's gonna be, part of the discussion.
Is this in our packet?
Yes.
Should be. What page? 72. I can't find it.
Yeah, it's in there.
It wasn't in the packet. I haven't got it.
I haven't got it.
The road going to
No,
it,
you
is that
haven't.
gonna be something that's through a grant, or are they paying for it?
They're paying for it. Yes, sir. So, and that's part of what we're trying to help them with, as, since they're putting in the infrastructure for that road leading to their hangar, we're gonna try to help them out with the land rent, even though the land rent's not terribly high. We're gonna try to help out where we can to facilitate that infrastructure, and trying to build a little bit of synergy between businesses.
In order. Is it in order? Yes, it's in order. I found it now. I can honestly say that the abatement, the rent abatement was the one part I wasn't real sure that I liked. It sounds like an awful lot of infrastructure that they're gonna be given toward the airport that other people can use in the future. I wasn't real sure, number one, that FAA would allow it, and number two, that I wanted to set that precedent with anybody else who may come in the future and say, I'm gonna build a building, you've gotta give me an abatement, because I'm gonna put something here. Those were the first two things that crossed my mind.
I spoke with, Andrew at Passero about this, just to confirm before it ever, came forward, and they said that this happens all the time with aviation-related businesses within the perimeter fence of an airport, so on the air side. And the FAA doesn't grant 100% abatement for this.
Right.
And it should be spelled out in the lease, and our intent is to not grant any more than 75% of what they have. That being said, the numbers that we're talking about are, you know, they have a 1 acre land lease with the Williston Airport that comes out to $300 a month per acre. So by the end of their 50-year stint, you're looking at $180,000.
Well, I also couldn't see when the abatement would end. I mean, we've given them $293.88 a month rent, but when is it going to end?
And a lot of that would be based on what they actually put into it. So if they didn't put up 75% worth of the infrastructure, then they wouldn't get the full 75%. So we would have to be looking at those documents and like, hey, what are you guys actually putting into it, before we can say, all right, this is your set amount that your rent is going to be abated, based on the infrastructure that you're putting in place.
Would you need that before the approval?
Well, they don't have the exact plan drawn out for everything yet. This is just a land lease for the hangar moving forward.
But it's including the 75% abatement, though.
Yeah.
Right, but it's based on the infrastructure that they put in. So the abatement is null and void unless they put in this infrastructure.
So do they have to give us invoices?
Yes, ma'am.
I read that somewhere, I'm pretty sure.
Yes, ma'am.
So my question is, do they only get abatement on the facilities that they're donating to the airport and not the building they're building?
Yes, ma'am.
Right answer, I like that. Okay, so the part that they're giving to us to use as communal property as such,
Right.
is what they get the abatement on, not the buildings that they're building.
So the entirety of it, part of this land that they're putting the road in on isn't included in their lease.
Right.
So, there's a side road just before you get to the Piper Cup that goes straight into a service gate right there.
Right.
Their plan is to develop that service road all the way up
As
to
a
it.
paved road.
Right, so they're actually developing outside their property.
Right.
So while this abatement is covering their rent for their land lease for this 1 acre, it includes improvements on land that is outside the scope of their purview.
The only issue I have is, when does it end? And if we could kind of, does it reach a certain dollar amount? Does it go on forever as long as they keep
doing improvements, I just don't kinda get that part.
With the 75% of their rent, there is a maximum number allowable there. You know, with the 180,000, I don't do the quick, or I can't do the quick math, cause that's just
I
not
mean,
me.
40
but-
years from now, if the lease is 50 years, 40 years from now, are we still gonna be abating it? I guess that's my question.
It all depends on the invoices that they submit and how it all works out. Ideally, no, you know, we would be collecting at that point, but it all depends on if they put in, you know, $180,000 or more worth of infrastructure, then the answer would be yes. Because their investment is greater than, the land rent value of that land for the 50 years.
Okay.
They're investing in us, though.
Yeah, they are.
And it's gonna bring other people.
We just kinda have some issues like that already, I'm trying not to get in the same.
I'll come back in 40 years and see
Yeah.
how it works.
We're on in 40 years, won't we? Yeah, okay.
I understand your concerns with some of the vendors that are already, on the airfield and have those type of issues.
Yeah,
This abatement is a very different process.
okay,
Because it sets from the start, there is only a set amount that we can abate up to. 75% of their maximum land rent from the start is what's allowed to be abated. So no more, and if it's less, if they provide less, then they get abated less. So it's all based on the invoices they hand us for the infrastructure being input to the airport, for that service road and whatever other improvements that they do.
okay. And they're gonna start out at this amount, and we'll bring it up to true as we go, if we need to.
Could you clarify?
Well, like you said, if they don't do as much as they say they're gonna do.
Yes, ma'am.
That
Yeah, so the
that number would change.
maximum allowable is 75%,
Okay.
period. If they give below their, you know, their expected rent, then we would factor that into the abatement process.
Okay. Somebody clear as mud on that? Okay, I'm sorry, I'm not. I am now, but I wasn't. Okay, so we are then, considering resolution 2021-76, and I would entertain a motion for approval. If you wanna go home. Tonight.
I move that we approve resolution 2021-76.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion from anyone? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The good news is, we've already done J. So at this point, we have our opportunity for our second public participation from anyone who has anything to speak to that is not on the agenda. Nobody online, nobody in the hallway. We have, and, yeah, they're all in bed. I guess all in bed tonight, y'all are all forever.
4 o'clock comes early.
Yeah, okay, so, I guess we'll move past that. Item number 7, I'm looking for announcements. Mr. Rollins, I'll start with you.
I'm done.
Mr. Mayor.
Our first student of the month is gonna be in January. We're gonna resume that in the first of January. Are we gonna participate in the Veterans Day Parade in Bronson?
But I was to send something. Should we send a fire truck, or a police car, or a utility truck, or a
something,
or a cow link, or something?
When is it?
November
It's
11th.
at 4 o'clock on the 11th.
I'll send a truck.
Yay, fire that truck. Y'all send something if you got it, put it that way.
I got a golf cart.
If something's, if something's available, we would like to have something because they support us. Okay.
Yeah.
Ms. Robinson.
I wanted to know about the, Christmas tree lot person. Did you find out anything about the Christmas tree lot person?
Is that a go?
Is that?
It is
yes?
so. Yes,
Okay,
yes, yes, she was very happy with what we did.
all right,
I'm sorry, yes. Thrilled and ordered trees.
okay.
Mr. Collins?
Thank you.
There was, I noticed a blurb on, Facebook, somebody was asking about, who do they get in contact for the Christmas parade?
Chamber of Commerce.
So, is there something that the chamber or the city can put on Facebook, you know, as a?
I think it's been on the chamber's Facebook page, and there's an application, I think you can actually get it from their Facebook page.
Yes, I've seen that.
Yeah, I've seen it, put it that way. 528-5552 is the number, and call them up. Or come in here, she's here most days now. Anything else? Miss Jackie?
No, ma'am.
Kirsten?
We have our ethics training November 18th, so if you have not signed up, RSVP, there will be food, there will be adult beverages, and there will be ethics.
Oh, cool.
November 18th, 4 to 8.
You thought you made me joke there. Adult there. It starts at
Time does it end?
4 o'clock, did you say?
4 o'clock.
November 18th, okay. Okay, all right. Ms. Patricia?
Yes, just a reminder, November the 11th, we have our Veterans Day celebration at the Dr. Schreiber Pavilion at noon. Guest speaker will be airport manager, Army veteran, Denton Eagle.
Terrific, I'll be there. Anybody else in the back row got anything to add?
I have a question.
Chief, speak.
The Christmas parade, is city council gonna be riding a green truck, or are they gonna, what are y'all gonna do?
Did you say a green truck or a yellow truck?
The green, yellow truck, whatever you wanna
Oh,
call
the green,
it.
yellow, yeah, uh-huh, sure.
Are y'all, okay, you're gonna ride the ARF truck, I'm just confirming.
It's a big climb, but I can get there.
Big truck.
I can still do it.
Okay, I just,
We have a forklift.
No, I'm not riding the booster truck, I'll ride the crash truck. Okay, anything else on the back row back there? Anybody else from the audience? I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
I move we adjourn.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor say aye. We will adjourn at 9:05. Hold it, yes,